Good evening, folks. I wanted to fill the void, or the void of silence whenever time I start the live stream. I thought, I'll just throw on some music. I should have let it play out a little bit more, and I didn't. And now I'm a bad person because you didn't get to hear the nice primal screams of the lead singer of Whitechapel. But anyway, we got a live stream to do, right? I can't sit here and go on about music all night long because as fun as that would be, we wouldn't get very educated. All right, folks, so it's once again time for our monthly visit with Patrick Holland from the Missouri Freedom Initiative. So without further ado, let me start the recording, and we'll get right to it. Let me get my levels up here, right?
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All righty, everyone, and we're back for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report, where freedom lovers and those who love liberty and love to spread the message of liberty can be found right here on the Missouri Liberty Report. Good to see so many folks already in the live stream. They're not here for me, they're here for Patrick, but hey, that's cool. Voodoo Queen, Grant, John Doe, Wilderness Gal are all here right now, ready to talk Missouri, and maybe some other subjects too. But Patrick, good evening to you, sir.
Hey, good evening to you, John, and thank you so much for having me back. It's a real pleasure to be with you on the first Friday of every month, man. I look forward to it.
It's always a good time and always a good discussion. So I'll just let you kind of, let me start by saying something. I want to get this off my chest. Because I am a glutton for punishing myself, and I watch This Week in Missouri Politics, and every time I do it, I feel a little dumber. But I have to bring this up because it was one of the most ridiculous things that I've heard so far. I think he did this at end of last month, end of December. But he was talking about, I guess Jeff City has a problem with the police department's writing parking tickets willy-nilly, and so it's big enough that Justin Brown apparently has a bill written to fight this, and Scott Fawn said this could be the most consequential bill of the session. And I thought, really, a ticket or a bill on parking tickets in Jefferson City is the most consequential bill this session, or could be? Like gold and silver, or medical freedom, things like that. That's not consequential at all. Parking tickets is the most consequential thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, and the more I listen to him talk, the more I want to throw up on my own shoes. But I watched the one the other day, and he's like, "No, I'm a conservative. Like a real conservative." And I'm like, "No, you're not." But anyway, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But just so everybody knows, gold and silver is inconsequential compared to parking tickets. Just so we're all clear. So Patrick's going to get on here, and he's going to talk about gold and silver. We're going to the Capitol on the 11th about gold and silver. But Scott Fawn might have changed my mind. I might be up there fighting over parking tickets. Anyway, let's get into this thing. So Patrick, again, how are things? And what's been going on in your world, man?
Oh, a lot. But first of all, I'm going to give Justin Brown a pass because I've been to his office. Senator Justin Brown seems quite medicated to me quite a bit of the time. And also, I'm sure I think I know what he's medicating for because I know him, and I've been going up to Jeff City for 3 years. And that's this sense of self-righteous smugness that he has. And I think he's medicating himself for that. So, those two things here, the personality disorder along with the medication to battle it, takes him to strange places mentally. And I'm pretty sure that that's where that parking ticket that came to him. By the way, I'm joking, everyone. I don't know that he's medicated or anything. I just thought I'd throw out a joke about it because it seems really stupid. And Justin Brown does stupid things sometimes, and I just came up with a story to explain it.
Oh, man.
So we were worried about him coming up with an anti-SEPA bill because he promised he would. He said SEPA was just too strong. We just made the law too strong, and we need to weaken it. So we're waiting for him to come out with his bill. He really shouldn't, though, because he just barely eked out in his election. It's not like he has a mandate to go after SEPA. He had like 70% of the vote or anything. He had I think it was 51% of the vote, or just under 51% of the vote, I think. So that's my take on Justin Brown, by the way. So, and before we get into gold and silver, John, if you let me indulge myself just a little bit here, because I've been on Twitter here the last couple of days talking about basically what's going on in the House of Representatives. That's with them trying to get McCarthy in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. McCarthy is WEF. He's World Economic Forum. And look at all these Republicans, literally falling over themselves trying to get him in the speakership. This is really disturbing. And you would think, and a lot of people have, hey, what's up with Missouri guy talking about federal politics? He says, don't spend any time there. Well, I generally don't. I really, truly don't, those of you who know me. But this is really important. This is the failure of our federal government. This is the, if you will, the fascism that we're seeing coming out right now. And this is really disturbing when you see that many people in the GOP voting for someone they most likely do know is in the WEF. So, it's just unfortunately a disturbing indictment to the failure of our federal government to represent the people. They're representing the World Economic Forum in our own government. And I think they have Mitch McConnell. I know they have Biden, and now they're about to get the Speaker of the House too. So this is why we fight in Missouri. This is why we do what we do here in Missouri, is because we've lost the federal government. That's my opinion. So I just thought I would throw that out there, for anyone who's been watching this stuff. But it is important, and it is something that we do need to pay attention to from time to time, if nothing else, just to remind ourselves how important this fight is that we do in our individual states and for us here in Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the federal government and the states, it's kind of funny. I started, I purchased the audiobook like a few months ago. I finally started listening to the Politically Incorrect Guide to the Civil War, and just talking, just in the beginning of the book, talking about the build up to the Civil War, or as most people like to refer to it as the War of Northern Aggression, however you want to say it. It's funny to hear how the Southern states felt and how Lincoln actually felt about things, and then we see that history constantly repeating itself, where the federal government's overstepping its bounds and the states are like, maybe not to a national divorce level yet, but the buildup is there. And Michael Bolton did a very short video today, and he was talking about protect the guard. Apparently, like several states are now looking at this, and he said, the big threat is we'll pull your federal funding, but if the feds lose half the states, that unless there's three other things, and I don't remember what he lined out, that the feds could do to pull the National Guard, but it's really still considered an act of war. So, the states could really, really hamper a war movement set forth by, banks, central banksters, and politicians, by saying, if half the states say, well, you can't have our National Guard, they're going to stay right here. Boy, you could really hinder central banks and their ability to wage unnecessary wars in foreign countries, and this is the power that the states hold. Now, let's hope. Again, I feel like even though it's a good thing, this is what I hate is that, you have someone like Biden in office, these states start going ballistic. But when a Republican's in office and these Republican states seem to just be like, oh, well, they don't keep the push going all the time because it's their guys in office. That's what drives me nuts about this whole thing. I wish it was consistent. No matter who the president was or who had the majority in the House or Senate, states would continually exercise their sovereignty over the federal government.
Yep. And once again, that's John, that's a really good point. The sovereignty of our states is actually what's on the line here. Gold and silver is just a part of that, but protect the guard is another part of that. Can the president just pull our guard, to fight in wars? And actually, the Pentagon recently released, a tweet actually saying that 45% of our active military, is basically represented by National Guards throughout the United States of America. When did that happen? That is not what the Guard is for. They have never been there to be rotated in and out of active duty in foreign lands. That's not their purpose. But that's what we're dealing with. Protect the Guard is a very, very important bill. That's something we're looking at right now as well. But you're right, lots of states are carrying this simultaneously. And when you have a bill that's in like 17 states at the same time, there's a reason. There's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, and I remember. Well, it was probably during Iraq, Afghanistan, but the Pentagon was kind of boohooing because more and more people were overweight and they couldn't sign them up for service, for armed services. So I think after 20 years in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq, and after a while, people got fed up with it, and a lot of youth said, I'm not signing up for this. I think they saw numbers drop, so they thought, well, heck, a lot of people in the National Guard, we'll just pull them. And we'll get our numbers from them, and we'll just throw them into some crap hole, across the ocean. Who cares? We don't have to do it. We'll just send them in to do it for us. So it's it's disappointing, but it's good to see the states growing some cojones and fighting back a little bit. This is promising, but we have to keep the momentum going. Even if we were to get a governor like Bill Eigel in office, that doesn't mean we all get to just sit down and not do anything anymore. We have to keep up the push. Doesn't matter who's in office. You have to guard that jewel of liberty against anyone who would focus on it or try to take a little bit of it. You have to be on guard eternally against
Amen, John.
politicians.
You're right. And, that's the thing. People might be asking, why is that happening right now? Why is there such a big push to protect the Guard, in all these different states simultaneously? And I think I know the reason for it. There's a resurgence of ISIS now because we apparently accidentally left $85 billion worth of military hardware in Afghanistan. And they're regrouping now with all their new toys. And, of course, we're going to spend, probably about $120-130 billion with the military industrial complex, getting brand new equipment to go back and fight them with our old equipment, because they're fighting us with our old equipment. This is insane. This whole thing is just insane. And it's to keep the boogeyman alive. Because if the boogeyman's still alive, the people are afraid. And if the people are afraid, they'll do what the government wants. It's, problem, reaction, solution over and over again. But it's disturbing to say the least. And Protect the Guard is something that our group is definitely looking at. That's something that we need to, and there might be more than one bill. We need to, identify all the existing bills and find the best one.
Right.
But I'm sure that's what it's about. A resurgence of ISIS in Afghanistan. I think it started. And so they're thinking we're going back to Afghanistan at some point, maybe in the next year or so. So by the way, it's not like I had information on that. I'm just guessing based on the Pentagon reports. That's what they're thinking right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can totally understand that. I mean, they're constantly playing the drums of war. Whether it doesn't matter who's in office. Obama was supposedly anti-war, but he sure liked his drone missiles and drone strikes. And we've had several people in office who were supposedly anti-war, and we might not actively be in war. Like our troops may not actively be fighting in a war like in Afghanistan or Iraq or something, but then we wage our proxy wars. We supply Saudi Arabia with things so they can constantly bombard Yemen, things like that. So
Hmm.
even if we're not in an actual active war, we run so many proxy wars as well that unless a president comes in and says everything's getting shut down, we're sick and tired of this nonsense, and they stop the whole thing, um, you know, then it's like you're not an anti-war president because you're
Yep.
allowing these proxy wars to continue. But it's one of those things. This is why, again, for the millionth time, this is why we fight to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. And so the president or Congress can go off and do dumb things, and then we can just kind of give them the one finger salute and tell them to go fly a kite or pee up a rope or however you want to express that. And we go on continuing to be a free people, or as free as you possibly can be. And that's just the total thing. That's the message, that's the agenda. And oh my goodness, I hope to God that people aren't out there going, freedom? Who the heck wants freedom? I do. Freaky
Yeah,
as it
kind
is.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like it's deep thoughts with Pat Holland today, because I want to remind everyone, today is January 6th, of course.
Oh
if you
my
look at
God.
your calendar, you know this. And
Yeah.
2 years ago, there was an incident, that happened in Washington, D.C. with a lot of protests there, folks that weren't very happy with the election, results, or, may or may not be fraud. We're on YouTube, gang, so we got to be careful. But I will tell you this, the investigation on January 6th started literally about a month after January 6th happened. So this investigation's been going on for almost 2 years. We still have people in jail that haven't even been charged yet. And we have people who have been charged and sentenced ridiculously huge sentences for doing very minor things. But I want to remind you all of that, because when September 11th happened in 2001, the investigation didn't start for 2 years. Get me on this. For 2 years, we have been investigating January 6th. And when September 11th happened, that investigation didn't start until 2003, 2 years after 9/11, the events of 9/11.
Yeah, just to cut in here real briefly, it's because people went in and desecrated their church.
That's right.
They desecrated the altar that the altar of power they all worship at, and some lowly people, some ordinary people walked in and desecrated their holier than thou political church, and it made them very angry.
No, it was a pure setup too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's lots of FBI and CIA in there. Ray Epps has never been investigated. In fact, he's been given a pass, yet he was an agitator that actually got them to break windows. And but that is neither here nor there. We're on YouTube, so maybe we shouldn't talk about this quite so openly. And I know how you feel about that, John, but, I just, it'd be a shame, if you got a strike over something like that. I'd feel bad about that. So first off, I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about what's going on in Congress, because we have the GOP falling over each other to install a WEF agent known as Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. This is not a joke. This is not hyperbole. This is not speculation. He is WEF. And frankly, I'd rather have a Democrat as Speaker of the House than a WEF agent. I'm tired of this nonsense at the federal level. But once again, a strong reminder to all of us, this is why we fight in Missouri. D.C. is lost. They're gone. We can mourn them. We can weep. But when we're done doing that, we need to move on by strengthening sovereignty through our state. And thank goodness the Founding Fathers gave us mechanisms to do that with the 9th and 10th Amendments. So that's what we do. That's what we do here in Missouri. This is why you don't see, the United States, Freedom Initiative, organization. We're not going to do that. It's a dead deal over there. So I did want to, before we even bring up anything else, I wanted to remind everyone on the 11th, remember the 11th of January. It doesn't rhyme. So hopefully everyone remembers anyway. That's our Knock and Shock Day up in Jefferson City. And that's where we're going around to spread the good word about Bill Eigels' SB 100, his gold and silver bill. We have activities planned. We'll have handouts. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to hand out coupons to representatives and senators to go up to Bill Eigels' office and get gold and silver chocolates. And those will be our potential co-sponsors. I mean, we know how to do this sort of thing. We know how to have fun with it too. So please, everyone, remember the 11th. And by the way, I'll do an email tomorrow morning to everyone who's on our email list as a reminder and all the details. So if you're not on our email list, please go to www.mofree, Mo short for Missouri, mofree.org, and sign up on our email list. So that way we can get you an email tomorrow with more details on that. So please remember that date, and that's coming up real quick. That's around the corner, and that'll be our first Knock and Shock. We don't know how many we're going to have. We don't plan these in advance too much when it gets hot and heavy because we don't know what focus needs to be. Sometimes we can handle things by phone calls or by emails. Sometimes it's more important to show up in person. And so this is our first Knock and Shock of the year, and it's important that we be there in person. And also, this is another great time for those of you who have been up to Jeff City before or haven't been up to Jeff City before. Once again, this is a group effort. And if you have never done so before, and you've never hung out with us before and done this before, don't worry, we got you covered. Basically, we've trained you. So, basically, you're not expected to talk if you're not comfortable talking. Just come with us and learn, observe, and see how we do it. And that way you can become a leader as well. And you can lead Knock and Shock. You can lead a team. You know how to, talk to these guys and gals up in Jeff City. And you kind of see the way we do it. And so that's an important part of it is the training. And I know a lot of folks are nervous about talking to representatives and senators. Actually, I'm nervous for talking to leadership. I hate to use that word, but everyone knows what I mean when I say that. I'm nervous about talking to Dean Plocker. I'm nervous about talking to Caleb Rowden. But chances are they won't be available to us. So, but most of them will be. So, but most of these guys are just regular guys and gals, just like your neighbors. And they're easy to talk to. So, but anyway, yeah, join us for that event. It'll be really, really good. Experience for everyone involved because this one's going to be fun. We're incorporating some fun things in with it, not just running around and talking to them and handing out papers. And we're going to do a little more than that. So it's also Gold and Silver Day in Bill Eigels' office, which is our home base. So they'll be decorating for the Gold and Silver Day in Bill's office. And, that's the day we're up there. Knock and Shock Day is also Gold and Silver Day. So we'll be celebrating Bill's SB 100, basically in his office. And once again, chocolate coins that are, look like gold and silver coins will be available to the representatives and senators if they come on up to Bill's office. That way Bill gets a chance to talk to them, face to face and all that fun stuff. And gets to sell the bill to them as well as us doing it. So we get to involve Bill that way as well. So that'll be fun for Bill. And then beyond that, actually, there's other things going on, but we'll get into those one at a time. The only things we have as a group decided to do yet are SB 100 and then SB 232, which is Jill Carter's bill, which is the same as HB 2009 from last year, which once again is parents' choice on vaccination. Tomorrow night, we'll resume that exercise with our group and figure out the rest of the bills we'll be doing as a group. So during our live stream.
And just to let everyone know, pay attention on my YouTube and Odyssey channels when I get the chance to work on them. My son got me a gimbal for Christmas, so
Oh, nice.
I'm going to take my gimbal with me, and I'm going to take some video footage of us as we walk through the halls, as we're knocking on doors. I'm going to ask one rep if he'll allow me just to take 10, 15 seconds of video. I won't even point the camera at him, maybe his name on his desk. And as someone's talking to them, whichever person, I think I'm going to talk to Representative Sander if he'll allow me to just video myself talking to him generally about something, just because I've spoken to him before. And then that way, and I will post all that on YouTube and Odyssey so that anybody who maybe thinks that we're stretching the truth a little bit about how easy it is, they'll get to see it firsthand, and hopefully others can use that to as a guiding light if they would like to do the same thing, make a trip to their state capital. And again, just how simple it really is. Again, be civil. Don't get in there slinging mud and name calling and cursing and everything. You be civil. You'd be surprised how much you get done and what kind of good civil discourse you can have with these folks.
Absolutely. As an example, when we visit Justin Brown on the 11th, I will not be accusing him of being medicated or of having a superiority smugness complex. I won't do that to his face. I'll be real nice to him when I'm there. And so, just as an example.
Yeah, because that I'm sure that would not go over real well. Like, Mr. Brown, will you with your smugness? Could I have 2 minutes of your time, please? Your smugness, and he's like, my smugness, like you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So yeah, don't do that.
I know. Yeah, I know, and it's just my way of joking about him because he did threaten to, weaken SAPA, which he hasn't done. There's no bill, but he did say it. And I haven't forgotten. I don't forget those kinds of things. So I'll probably make fun of him as long as he's in the Senate because of that. And so we got him for another 4 years, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But but at the same time, basically, he's a person. He makes mistakes. I make mistakes too. So, but I usually apologize for them and try to make up for them. So that's just part of being human. That's part of the human experience. But, hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring up the fact that Bill's getting an awful lot of love, Bill Eigel, and from many different sources. And if you guys are not aware of it, basically he's been on Zero Hedge now. And that was just yesterday. If you guys go over to Zero Hedge and just kind of scroll down to yesterday's news stories, basically you'll see that Bill's SB 100 got noted in Zero Hedge, and it's aggregate site, so it was pulled from Schiff Gold, Peter Schiff's outfit. To make matters even more interesting, Gary Ride had sent me a text message to let me know that he was on USA Watchdog. And so it's a 38-minute mark, and this was a video that he had just done yesterday or the day before. And there, lo and behold, there it is. Bam. Greg Hunter's talking about Bill Eigel and how wonderful it is that his home state, Greg Hunter, lives in Missouri. He works in a different state, but he lives here. And how wonderful it is his home state of Missouri has this bill. But equally, this morning, Mike Bolden was talking about SB 100 again, talking about that's kind of the centerpiece, basically of the nullification movement. And I never thought of that. But it is a nullifying effect, isn't it? Against the Federal Reserve. Not necessarily about the federal government, but the Federal Reserve. So, and not to mention, is there another video or news story I'm forgetting about right now? I can't remember. I mean, there's so much of this coming out now. And guys and gals, everyone, this is really cool because this is a gold and silver bill, and it's getting all this national coverage. You're not seeing a lot of national coverage for other state bills. that tells you how powerful this is and how popular it is. So that SB 100 is good, real good stuff. We need to support it. We need to shepherd it. We need to nurture it, and we need to make sure that it gets through all the processes before May 15th, which is when they end session. So that's up to us. So we'll work with Bill to do everything we can to get that through, and then all the other bills we support as well. Don't want to, talk too much about other bills. We do know we'll be carrying SB 232, which is, the Parents' Choice on Vaccination bill as well. That's Jill Carter. She is also in the Senate. So we'll be visiting with her on the 11th as well.
Yeah, there's there's one bill that when we're up there on the 11th that I've got to talk to the author about. Which one is it? I got it bookmarked. I just got to get the right number. I'm just curious about what his is this one? Is it Brian Seitz? No, it can't be Brian Seitz's bill, is it? Well, there's that one too. Apparently, we have one on certificates of need, getting rid of certificate of need in Missouri, which would be great. But there's one other one, and by God, I can't find it now. Here, yeah, Representative Francis has a bill on basically kind of eliminating that need for licensing to grow hemp in Missouri. And I want to talk to him more and find out what his intentions are with this bill, because that one kind of piqued my interest when I saw it, because I thought, because it literally 75% of the old bill or old law is just got lines through it. So.
Oh, you mean redacted?
Yeah, it's just redacted. He's just literally just wiped out. Literally 75 to 80% of that bill is just redacted. Mm-hmm. So there's I don't know how many pages here. There's 7 or 8 pages. The first 2, and the rest of them are all redacted. So I want to talk to him on the 11th and find out exactly what his thoughts are, because that could be that's something important as we're talking about fuel in the future. Even if we can't really focus a lot of power on it this session, maybe next session something that we can get behind. But who's to say? I happened across it the other day on Legiscan, and I was like, and bookmarked it. And I did notice that there's a kind of another immunization or vaccination bill in the House too, from Adam Schnelting.
Okay.
It's HB 445. Now his is basically saying the immunization schedule cannot contain the COVID vaccine. Nothing else is touched, but he's trying to eliminate where COVID would be put on the immunization schedule here in Missouri. I'm sure the other one's quite different. But his is just the COVID vaccine, is all his is covering. But I did find that one last night as well. But gold and silver is the big one, folks.
Yeah, I know. This is rough this year, John. I know this is your second year running with us, but we didn't have this many good bills last year.
No.
I mean, this year is actually pretty interesting for Liberty bills. It makes me wish the organization were 100 times larger so we could take on a lot more of this stuff. Here's where the rubber hits the road, guys, before, I get on to something else, which is Freedom Fest in Springfield, Missouri on February 9th. But what's so pivotal of this is there's so many bills that get put in the legislature. It's just overwhelming for the amount of time that they have. So we have to make sure that the bills that we want to go through get a chance to get debated on the floor. There's lots of mechanisms to make that happen, but grassroots involvement is most likely the most important element. Literally, it's more important than anything else. So I strongly recommend that everyone actually help us out as much as they can with the grassroots effort on the really good Liberty bills. And by the way, when we talk about doing a Liberty bill, doing a knock and shock, doing an email campaign or a phone campaign, any help that you can give is appreciated. I have people say all the time, "Hey, I want to come up for knock and shock, but I can only be there for an hour and a half," and we'll take you. Absolutely. I mean, I'm there from morning till night. But I don't expect everyone to do that. I mean, anyone, they can give an hour of their time or 5 hours of their time or 2 hours of their time. Every little bit of that is appreciated and actually makes a difference. So don't think if you can only spend an hour up there that you're not helping. You are a great deal, actually. And when we had the gang of 12, we only had the gang of 12 for about 2 hours, John. Was that about right? Before people had to start leaving?
Yeah, 2 or 3 hours, and then the numbers dwindled a little bit.
Yep. But I'll tell you what, that gang of 12 made a difference. They still talked about it. I mean, they're still talking about it. That made a huge impact. Squeezing that many people into these offices to go talk to, senators, that gets noticed, gang. I'm telling you, what we call knock and shock is the most effective tool we have. It's more effective than filling up, voicemail. It's more effective than an email campaign. When you have that many people literally going into a senator's office or a representative's office, all to talk about the same bill, that has power, real power. And so that's where we're most effective. So, basically knock and shock is a big deal for us. And also other states and other organizations in other states are starting to follow our model. So this is really cool too, because they can be more effective in their states. I was on the Mises Caucus podcast last Sunday. So it was a money bomb campaign that they were having on, and it just so happens that I followed Mike Bolden and Mike Mahari, who were also on the money bomb. So I didn't get to interact with them directly on the podcast, but I was on right after them. So, they gave me a shout out, and of course I did the same thing. But the main point of me being on that video was to talk about knock and shock. And the Libertarian Party is kind of getting its feet wet in activism now. So, and that they kind of know how, if they don't know how to do it, they're going to learn how to do it. And I think that, basically it would behoove libertarians to actually follow that model. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I'll tell you, some people may say, "Oh, geez, going up to the Capitol, meeting with representatives and senators, I feel like I need a shower." Yeah, I feel that way too. But, it is fun while you're actually up there doing it. And especially, when you get to have some, interactions that you wouldn't normally expect, particularly with some of the LAs up there, that can be a lot of fun too. But we're planning something that, basically with the chocolate coins, basically it sounds like a gimmick, but what it is fun. It gives them a reason to go up to Bill Eigel's office and talk about the silver and gold bill directly with Bill beyond talking to us. This is part of our strategy to get this passed, gang. So, once again, I hate to keep going back to silver and gold and everything, but it is a very important bill. And, we definitely need to get this done in the state of Missouri. And the good news is I've already heard that the state of Texas is dissecting our bill right now to get all the good parts out that they haven't already passed into law there. So they're going to be amending their own law this year, with components of our bill that they missed in their law. So that's how good it is. Texas is saying, "Oh, we didn't do it as good as we could. We will amend our existing law with stuff from Missouri." But of course, states steal from each other's legislation all the time, and there's no copyright laws. We encourage that sort of thing. When there's a good thing happening in a state, other states should do the same thing. And so now that I got that out of the way, knock and shock is a lot of fun. But remember, February 9th, Bill Eigel is going to have a Freedom Fest event in Springfield, Missouri. So if you're close to Springfield, you might want to come in for that event. And I don't know all the details yet, but I understand that those will be coming literally in less than a week. All the details are coming actually very quickly. I would imagine by the time we're up there for Knock and Shock, we'll have all the details on that. So if you're close to Springfield, Missouri, you'll have a Bill Eigel Freedom Fest. Those are fun as well. So that's something else to look forward to. Plus, also, usually there's other politicians that show up at those events as well. So it gets you a chance to talk to these politicians, sell bills that you really want done, or talk to them about bills they have, and get more information on those bills. Guys, we're talking about trying to lock up the sovereignty of the state of Missouri. I mean, we should be taking this very seriously and then taking every opportunity we can to work with these politicians to make it happen. And believe it or not, politicians probably wouldn't do this on their own. They really need the support of the people to do some of these things that we need to do. Like, for instance, we're looking at immigration bills right now, and that's a sovereign issue. And that's an important one. And the federal government has completely failed us on this regard. The borders are wide open. I know that some people would say that's okay. But with the sheer amount of people that are coming in, it's not okay anymore. There are many states now that are screaming uncle financially. They can't, Texas is screaming uncle. California is screaming uncle now, too. They literally cannot afford this anymore. The federal government won't close the borders, and they keep going into their states. Even states that are laden with sanctuary cities are screaming uncle. So, guys, we have to work on our sovereignty, and that's part of what 2023 is all about for me. Let's make Missouri free in 2023. Why? Because we have so many liberty bills in our legislature this year. These guys have to be thinking about it, too. And when I say these guys, I'm talking about our politicians up in Jeff City.
Yeah, and let's not mince words here. The time is drawing short because get things done, because the more we linger, or if we it would be fantastic to get a larger group of people showing up to do these things. The more people get involved, the faster we get things done, the more we can do to thwart an overreaching, tyrannical federal government and fight back tyranny here in our state as well. So, it's kind of something that we have to look at and be serious about. Now, we've got a lot of serious folks, but boy, it would be fantastic to get a lot more serious folks involved. And I understand that everybody can't make that trip. I completely get it. But even taking, again, if you can't make it, emails and phone calls, sure. I mean, even those would be nice. We'd love to see you in Jeff City. Absolutely love to have a big crowd we literally have to split up into 4 groups to wind our way through and work our way through the halls. But, again, just help in some manner. I'm not talking money. I'm just talking taking a few minutes out of your day to make a phone call, write an email, especially on this gold and silver bill. And there will be some others, probably 4 more bills that we'll want to focus on. You just can't imagine the good, taking a few minutes out of your day, how much good it does to not only ensure that you get to keep more of your money and more of your freedom, but everyone else in the state does too. This doesn't, strictly help one certain group of people, or it's for every single citizen of the state of Missouri. And that's why it's so vitally important, because you're literally helping everyone out. Literally everyone that lives in the state will be better because you took a few minutes of your day to make a difference. It's that simple.
And let's remember what happens if we don't go up to Jefferson City. And that's we the people. And we the people leaves a void if we don't go up to Jeff City. And that void is quickly filled by lobbyists. Trust me, they're up there in Jeff City too. In fact, there's some representatives I've talked to before in the past that say they see more lobbyists than they see constituents. What do you think they're going to listen to? You know, the citizens don't care. So in their minds, the citizens aren't watching and the citizens don't care. So why not go with the lobbyist? You know, why not dance the dance of the lobby, you know, rather than dance the dance of the constituents, which is, you know, freedom, liberty. Lobbyists don't care about freedom and liberty. All they care about is money. That's what they go up there to do, is to make money, to find a way to get the state to give them money for something. That's what they do. So if we're not going up to Jeff City, others will go in your stead, and those others do not have good intentions. So, you know, that's kind of my message. Also, too, I mean, I've talked to plenty of reps and senators about this. If you want to have an impact with your, I'm sorry about that. I had a text there. If you want to have an impact with your rep or your senator, it's literally visiting them in Jeff City. That is the most impactful thing you can do. Now, you can still call and email. Those help as well. But like I said, nothing sticks out in their memory more than you going up there and visiting them. So that's an important point. And that's why we do knock and shock. And it's effective. I mean, we literally, guys and gals who joined us to literally shut down HJR 79, the IT reform bill that they were trying to shove down our throats in 2022. Every one of you is a hero. Every one of you. We did it. Our group did it. We actually did it. Now, there were others that came in to help, but we actually that day did it. We changed minds in real time by handing them a better solution. So it's not just we go up there and say, that's a bad idea, Senator. Bad Senator, roll up a newspaper, hit him on the nose. No, that's not what you do. You provide a better solution, or you have a better argument. You know, so it's very important to listen to what your rep or your senator are actually saying. So oftentimes they do have things they need to say. And sometimes they have reasons for making decisions that you wouldn't otherwise know unless you actually sat down and listened to what they had to say. So having a conversation is important. But when you're plugging bills, when you're looking for co-sponsors, there's not a whole lot of that goes on. You're just spreading the good news about the bills that you like, and you're asking for co-sponsors and support, you know, among senators and representatives. And that's pretty much what we're doing for Knock and Shock Day.
And just to kind of, you know, go on what Patrick said there, with the gang of 12, when 12 people go trying to squeeze into an office, it makes some eyebrows raise. Like, holy crap, that's a lot of citizens. Nobody with a check to write, no bribe money, just citizens to have a conversation. They are not used to that. They are not used to that. And to be perfectly honest, we've heard several reps say on this show, or, you know, reps that we've just talked to, they would actually love to see their constituents come into their office. They actually kind of want that, because this way you're having a face-to-face conversation with them, and they know exactly where you stand on an issue, on a bill, anything. A lot of them would like to see their constituents show up. Now, I'm sure there's a few that wouldn't. There's some rhinos that probably wouldn't want people in their office because they know that people that show up probably don't have good things to say. But generally, yes, the lawmakers do like to see the people show up and talk to them. I think it's kind of refreshing for them, actually, to not have somebody from a lobbyist group showing up and trying to bribe them or extort money out of them or whatever, or offer money. Or, you know, they're just talking to the other, you know, reps or senators. There's fresh faces to talk to and have a conversation with. And that's just like any of us, you know, when you meet someone new and you strike up a conversation, it makes it more interesting because you're learning about a person, you're learning new things, you're getting someone else's feedback who might help you guide you might guide their decision making a little bit. So it's definitely a positive thing for the most part. Like I said, it's not 100%, but I'd say 95% probably that you can go in and have a very nice conversation with, even though you may not line up with them, politically. A lot of them will still have a conversation with you. So it's yeah, it's rather refreshing, and that's I feel like sometimes you just can't say that enough when we're talking about this, because some people are very passionate, which is good, but you have to be able to control your temper, and you have to be able to keep that anger down to be the most productive. And again, I know, we all know, folks, with the rhinos and some of the Democrats in office, it's hard not to get angry. But if you're going up there to do good, to do good works, you got to bottle that energy up and just keep it at bay. Because literally, if you come in there angry, they're not going to listen to a word you have to say, because they're like, oh, automatically the red light, the red flag goes up, and they're like, oh, they're just here to bust my chops. And they're not going to listen. They might nod their head and go, I understand. But they're not listening to a dadgum word you say to them.
Yeah, and you're ever so right. In fact, I would say, first of all, I don't really get really angry about what happens in Missouri. I get really frustrated. But let your anger about what's going on in D.C. right now fuel your resolve to get something done in your state. Let that be your guiding light. Let that be your strength. Let it be a source of strength for you going forward, because the states have more power than the federal government does technically, because the Constitution of Missouri actually, it's more powerful and more relatable to you and your life than the U.S. Constitution, because U.S. Constitution is a set of limitations on the federal government. So, this is where the rubber hits the road, literally, gang. The D.C. is falling apart right before our eyes. There's nothing we can do. I mean, look at the clown show going on right now, within the U.S. House of Representatives. And they will eventually take Kevin McCarthy. I mean, it's going to happen. I know it will. And then we'll know that the entirety of D.C., with the possible exception of the Supreme Court, is controlled by the World Economic Forum. That should feed your resolve to spend time fixing your state, getting rid of corruption in your state and fixing up your state, getting good legislation passed, and working towards sovereignty, the sovereignty of your state, because you're not going to get sovereignty from your federal government. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, just going back to, it's just funny, just going back to some of the things that I've been reading and some of the things that I've been seeing, just going back through history, just literally going back through history, back into the late 1700s with the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions on tariffs. Things like, they were nullifying, even at that early stage, states were nullifying bad things that came out of the federal government. Some people act like this is something new, but if you look back in history, nullification's been going on for 200 plus years in our country. It's just, for some reason, it's not being taken seriously. Well, I mean, you know why? Because of the education that people get nowadays and everything else, that's not taught. But you take a little time and do a little research, you're going to realize states have been doing this basically since our country's inception, because of the way the founders framed things. And one of the very key elements in that was, yes, the 10th Amendment and nullification. And again, to solidify in people's minds the power and the sovereignty that you and the people that make up your state have, the power invested in you, granted by, just look at the writings, look at the letters, look at the articles they wrote. They're very specific about the states, that the federal government's power coming from the states, and that the people of those states have the ultimate sovereignty in this country, or they're supposed to. Now, of course, the feds bribing the states with federal money have been chipping away at that. But here in Missouri, because we have so many freedom lovers in this state, and so many people, again, we don't have to recruit people like New Hampshire does. We got a lot of them right here in the state. It's really just getting those people ready for duty, freedom duty, basically, and make a stand. And instead of letting woke lefty weirdos be the loudest voices in the room, it's our turn to be the loudest voices in the room, because we always hear that silent majority being thrown around. Well, the time for silence has been long gone, and it's time to be the loudest voices in the room. I'm not saying the angriest, chanting, torches and pitchforks and threatening violence. I'm just saying, if we don't come together and make our voices the loudest, then it's kind of hard to get things done.
Yeah, I agree, John. And well said. Let me tell you, I mean, from going up to Jeff City, and we call it Knock and Shock now, and we're going to keep that name because it's got a good ring to it. But when it first started, it was just Jimmy and me going up to Jeff City, and Ron Calzone for a couple of days. We ran around with Ron. And I will tell you, in 2020, I did see a Knock and Shock campaign for Moms Demand Action up in Jeff City. And I saw them there several days, but they never had more than 5 people. So sometimes they were smaller than that. Sometimes it was 2. One time it was 4. And then the biggest group we ever saw was 5. And so we've surpassed that. But I don't think anyone, in fact, I think we're pretty much competing with the pro-life groups in Missouri.
Hey, Pat, can you hold that thought real quick? I've got to cut. For those of you
I'm sorry, buddy.
Hey, no problem. For those of you in the KEYK audience, make sure you tune in next week. I'll have Robert Brown on, and we'll be specifically speaking historically on nullification throughout American history. All right. I'm sorry, Patrick. Continue on there, buddy.
Okay. Yep. I'm sorry. I wasn't watching the time.
It's fine.
But the fact is, I mean, we're now competing with the biggest groups the pro-life organizations have had up in Jeff City at one time for a Knock and Shock campaign. And to me, that is a huge testament to how much people love liberty in the state, because the pro-lifers, that's a big organization, gang. Missouri Right to Life, Voice for Life, and there are others. But that's how much people love liberty here in Missouri. We're actually competing with pro-life, the biggest, single, organized group that actually goes and lobbies, if you will, in a state. So that's how big our group, the Missouri Freedom Initiative, and people who come with us to fight for freedom, to fight for liberty, to get good bills passed in your state. That's, something to be really proud of. I mean, you guys are awesome. I said, I'm not a leader. I'm an organizer of leaders. So that's what I am. And everyone that actually makes phone calls, that sends emails or goes up to Jefferson City, literally every one of you are a leader. Every single one of you. So I am proud to hang out with you guys. And I'm even more proud that you guys love liberty, just as much as I do, and you're willing to work for it. But that is really, really awesome. I couldn't ask for a finer gift in life than people who truly believe in natural law and freedom and liberty like I do, and then have them hang out with me for a day up in Jeff City. That to me is tops.
Yeah, again, honestly, if you would have asked me 20 years ago if I ever pictured myself going into the Capitol in Jefferson City and talking to representatives and senators, I would have looked at you like you had too much to drink that day. But now, here, fast forward 20 years, and here I am doing it, and it's not crazy. But again, looking back at the way I used to think politically, yeah, that would have been a stretch. If I'd have been going up there, I would have been, angry at Republicans. It would have been over something stupid that was really meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And now here I am with a totally different mindset and doing these things. And it's, again, I was pretty dang anxious the first time we went up there, pretty nervous. But the more I go up there, the more at ease I feel. And it's, I mean, honestly, when we get together, It's really just like a group of friends getting together and hanging out. Except we're just hanging out at the Capitol. We all want the same thing. We all like the same thing. But
Yep.
we know, and like Patrick said, we have a good time doing it. There's a lot of fellowship there amongst fellow freedom lovers, and we may not get the bills we always want through, but we've also killed some bad legislation. So a win is a win. If you can kill something that's going to hurt the people of Missouri, it's still a win. Doesn't matter. It may not be as sexy, and it may not be as big as, oh, we help get this bill passed. But to people that love liberty, killing something like that IP initiative crap, that was a pretty big win.
It was. It was every bit a bigger win as getting SAPA through, because we kept the freedom. They were trying to take a freedom away from us. That's the ballot initiative. Why do we need the ballot initiative? Because we have people like Clocker in our General Assembly. We need to get around him when the House doesn't have the backbone to deal with him. That's what the ballot initiative is for. Equally, if we have someone in the Senate that we can't reason with, that we can't get through to, we have a mechanism to get around. That's the ballot initiative. Incidentally, that's going to probably end up being tightened up this year. So, basically, Ron Calzone is very much involved in that process to make sure that it doesn't get tightened to the point where it's useless. And that's something that, Ron is on top of, though. So he is working that. But I want to stress again, thank you to everyone who was part of the Gang of 12, to shut down HJR 79, because trust me, that was going to go through the Senate within a day or two of us being there. And, we were able to put enough doubt, plant enough seeds of doubt into people's minds by showing them a better alternative that it got shut down. So thank you to all of you. That was a huge victory. That was a huge victory. Even though it was the only thing that we managed to get done in 2022, we saved our ballot initiative. I mean, guys, that's huge. Think, there's only 13 states that even have a ballot initiative, and they were trying to take it away from us. And we saved it. That's what we did in 2022. We couldn't get anything else done because of Blocker the Blocker, but we did manage to shut down 79. And I will note that that's the first thing that got passed through the House at, breakneck speed was HJR 79 in 2022. It was in the middle of February. It was all done in the House, went up to the Senate. And the bills don't move that fast through the House, generally. So, yeah, that got fast-tracked. I mean, they were going to set that thing free. They intended to anyway.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, that was their baby, and
It was.
we smushed that baby. And I'm not talking about an infant, you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be figuratively, not literally. But yeah, we smashed their baby, and it made them a little butthurt. Oh, well. I mean, if you're not going to listen to the will of the people, sometimes it gets shoved right back in your face. And, that's what free people do. If a government is trying to shove something down your throat, liberty lovers push back. And, you get liberty lovers in great numbers, then they have a much harder time pulling the wool over people's eyes, getting things, like gas taxes and things like that through, because people will just, in big numbers, will call them out and say, I don't know what you think you're doing, but if you'd like to keep your job, how about you not do that? And that's something that is still mind-blowing to me, Patrick, that I'm surprised that people didn't, and I guess in greater numbers, literally just raise the roof over the gasoline tax when that was, being pushed through. I'm surprised the phone, the email, did they?
They did. Yes, they did. They voted it. This is a precarious thing that I don't have all the details on. It's from 2021, so it's getting further and further from everyone's memory. But the fact is, I had a private conversation with a representative, I won't mention his name, that said literally he was told, you either pass the gas tax or just forget SAPA. So they passed the gas tax in order to get SEPA out. And that's unfortunately job of the shops that actually said that to these people. That was, I don't know. This is the dirty politics that get played. And they tried to turn SEPA into a Christmas tree bill. I mean, that failed, but they tried to hang a bunch of other legislation on SEPA because they knew it was going through. Missouri had never seen anything like SEPA before. The sheer amount of grassroots activity around SEPA was, unprecedented. They've never seen anything like it. There were times where they couldn't answer the phones, and they were filling up voicemail box on SEPA. They literally couldn't answer the phones fast enough. Emails by the thousands, and not to mention the visits up to Jefferson City. They had to pass it. Parson had to sign it. I mean, that kind of activity they'd never seen before, ever in the history of the state of Missouri. They had to put it through. I mean, so even if Parson, was a rhino in disguise, which sometimes I think he is, he had to do it politically. There was just no way he could not do it with all the activity that was surrounding it.
And
so,
think about gold and silver, how that's going to be.
Yep. Because, and gold and silver it's even better because actually that's not offensive. It's only offensive to bankers, and that's it. Everyone else, they're either neutral or they love it. So, and by the way, I'm not insinuating that we have bankers in our General Assembly in the state of Missouri. I'm insinuating that some of our General Assemblymen may be controlled by bankers, is what I meant by that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've done it on your live stream, Patrick. You've showed where donations have gone to like Plocker and the like.
Yep.
A lot of financial institutions giving money to guys like that. There's a reason for that. But if the gold and silver bill garners the attention, and probably even more than than SEPA, Plocker's not going to have much hope on killing that because it's going to be way too big, just like SEPA was. Now, let's just hope to God that they don't have another crap bill that they try to, if you want this gold and silver bill, you're going to have to pass X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
Let's hope we don't have another shots moment in the Senate. But, this gold and silver bill is huge. It has to be. It's got to be done, folks. I mean, this is one of those, it's just like SEPA. It has to be done. If you want any hope of some financial strength for your family, your friends, this has got to be done. I mean, the way the federal government is spending money, the way inflation is, and with, more than likely a digital coin and all these other things that they're going to be trying to shove down everyone's throat, you've got to have an alternative, something that is literally inflation-proof. I mean, it's been around for thousands of years, and it's never lost its value. I don't know where else could you put your money that the value of it is consistent, constantly. Now, sure, the price does go up and down. Normally, 2008, gold and silver jumped up, which is a good thing because if you have it in your pocket, you literally made money right at that time. And you literally are not holding a piece of paper. You had bullion, you had coins, you had something of intrinsic value in a safe, in your closet, wherever. You literally had something that you could look at, know the worth of it, and know that some idiot in some Federal Reserve Bank can't manipulate the interest rate to mess up your gold and silver because they can't really touch it. And that's the beautiful thing. It's something that central banks really, really, in the grand scheme of things, just can't seem to fully control because it doesn't spring forth from their evil, mechanical machines, i.e. printing presses and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and there's several ways to look at what you just talked about, too, is, what are the ties that bind? What is it that the state of Missouri, basically becomes a lapdog to the federal government over? It's the dollar. It's money. And if we have less of their money and more of God's money in our state, that puts us in a better position. I mean, not only for negotiations but literally to, help the federal government understand we don't have to do what you want because, you keep threatening to take away money or a currency from us. Well, we're developing a stockpile of money right now. We're doing silver and gold too. So it just gives the state a little bit more bargaining power, basically when it comes to what the Fed is trying to do. But beyond that, I mean, silver and gold is just actually, honest to God, a really, really good idea, particularly when it comes to the Treasury. Now, on Facebook, there's a gal on the Missouri Missouri Legislative Watch that's been, and I don't know if she's a troll or if she truly doesn't understand, but she says, hey, this bill, is terrible, SB 100. Because, basically it'll put the state of Missouri in a position where they can force people to pay for their taxes in gold and silver, and the taxes are illegal to begin with. And so I was like, okay, how do I deal with this? I'm not sure where she's coming from. Is she an anarchist, or she just doesn't understand, or she just has an axe to grind? Which one is it? So I said, it's really important that the Treasury accept gold and silver for payment of taxes. Now, once again, it's a voluntary thing on the taxpayer side, but it's mandatory on the state side. So if you say, I want to pay my taxes in gold, the state would have to take it. That's what we're talking about, SB 100, the language that's in the bill. And the reason that's in there is because that immediately legitimizes gold and silver as transactable money in the state of Missouri. That's why we want the Treasury to be able to take it. And then also to start saving some of its reserves in it. That's what immediately legitimizes a money, a currency, a trading, bartering tool, is whether or not the state accepts it for payment of taxes. And I'm trying to get that across to people, and it's just lost. But they said, no, you're trying to get the state of Missouri to steal all of our gold and silver. You're trying to force us to pay our taxes in gold and silver, with this bill. No, we're not. Nowhere in there does it say anything like that. It's just weird. So I guess, maybe, I got to take a look at that and see if there's a better way I can communicate what that's about or how it's, the reasoning for certain things that are in that bill. They're in there for a reason, folks. I mean, it's, and no, we're not about, the state of, in fact, I will never pay taxes in gold and silver. You will never find me doing that, ever. They're going to get my fee out. That's what they get. But if the state says it will accept gold and silver, that's the important point here. So if anyone ever had that question, that's why it's in the bill.
Yeah, nowhere in that bill does it say the people must pay their taxes with gold and silver. That's not anywhere in that language, so I don't know how she's coming up with this. Some people, there's so many people out there. It's just like the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. They just add words. They totally just purposely just misconstrue the whole thing and just get out there in the media and start parroting it. People get angry, and it's like nowhere in the bill does it say you're being forced to, that you will have to pay your taxes in gold and silver. Also, it doesn't say, yeah, we're allowing the state to confiscate your gold and silver. It doesn't say that either. To me, it's somebody who's just trying to pass bad word around about the bill because for some reason they don't like it. Maybe they like their fiat currency or something to that effect, and they literally have not read anything of the bill. They haven't read one sentence in that bill because none of that is mentioned anywhere in all those papers. Nothing of the like.
Yeah, agreed. And so, and there was nothing more I could really do. I mean, I did ask her, I said, I really need you to actually spell out what your concerns are with this bill. I said, I can address them one at a time, but it's like you're attacking me saying, I want the state of Missouri to steal everyone's gold and silver. The exact opposite is true. In fact, it does have, it actually does make it illegal to confiscate gold and silver in this bill. And so I don't know if it's a troll or someone who doesn't truly understand, or in many cases, I deal with anarchists from time to time that literally just see, well, you're creating another law and you don't need it. Gold and silver is already money. Well, I realize that, but we're working with the matrix here. And working outside the matrix with gold and silver is not going to help the state. So we need to do something, that's actually enshrined in law in the state, saying that gold and silver is money before businesses are more likely to actually start transacting in it. And that's the main goal here. We want people and businesses to feel comfortable using gold and silver as currency and start using the dollar less. That's the power they have over you, is the dollar. That's always been the power they have over you. That's why, the Federal Reserve will most likely take us to a digital currency this year in 2023, start it off anyway. And they'll make it real nice at first. Hey, you sign up, we'll give you $200 a month, in universal basic income or something like that. Sign up for your digital wallet, start getting, start getting your digital dollars today. It's all about control, gang. And once they dump the debt from the dollar into the digital dollar, that's digital enslavement that'll take 3 generations to get out of. 3 generations. We have to think very, very carefully where we go next, where money is concerned, where the transactions that we have as individuals, we have some say over, and not the federal government or the Federal Reserve lording over us with their products. This is where tyranny comes from. It's the monetary system. I did a podcast probably about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, on truth, money, and freedom. And we did that mental exercise. If you get rid of the Federal Reserve, it gets rid of like 99% of all the evil. If you can't just print up currency that people, actually accept as money, if you can't do that anymore, you don't have power over them anymore. So, that's where the tyranny comes from. It's pretty simple logic, gang. And I know that there's a case to be made for crypto. And I realize that, but honest to God, crypto does not have the history that gold and silver does. That's why we want to start with gold and silver. We can look at crypto later. We need to deal with this year, because this is the year they're coming out with the CDBD or whatever it is, the central bank digital currency. We need to deal with this now and not 2 years from now. So basically getting the state to get on board with this should be relatively simple. This shouldn't be a really, really difficult bill to pass unless someone's got an axe to grind. And that would be the only way it should be difficult. Otherwise, it should be relatively simple.
Well, yeah, when you're talking about 3 generations to get rid of, let's be honest. The way the system is now, the more corrupt it is, the more they spend. The only other way to get out of the central banking scheme that we're trapped in now is for the system to collapse.
Yeah.
And so if logic tells you at some point this thing is going to collapse. Wouldn't it be wisest to have something that's tangible that you can hold in your hands, keeps its value, and then you don't worry so much about what some fiat currency or digital currency is doing, because you have something that's going to that's withstood the test of time and will continue to withstand the test of time, and the system can collapse. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be great for everybody, even if you have gold and silver, but it'll be a lot easier because you'll still be able to trade. You'll still be able to buy and sell. If you just have whatever crap currency a central bank is giving you, you'll have nothing. You'll literally have, you'll be looking at your little smartphone and looking at your account and seeing zeros and freaking out because you can't get anything. So this is the best bet. This is the best hedge against inflation. It's the best hedge against currency that is worthless as the paper it's printed on right now, and then as worthless as you're just seeing a little digital movement from one screen to the next. There's no value in. There's no real value in something that doesn't exist. Like me and another gentleman blew a guy's mind at work today. He brought up something about fractional reserve banking. He was laying it out, and I said, yeah. I looked at Tim. I said, Tim, if you have $1 million, you own a bank, you have $1 million. I said, you can give out $10 million in loans. And I said, so you're literally loaning out $9 million that you don't have, and you're charging interest. And he's like, excuse me? And I said, yes, that's the banks today. That's what goes on. You're literally lending money out that you don't even actually have in holdings. So that's how screwed the system is. And this gold and silver, this money, this currency that's been around forever, that's why it's top notch. Again, it's God's money. It's the best thing since sliced bread, but even though it came before sliced bread, but whatever. You're picking up what I'm putting down here.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know. I think that it's time. I don't know how to, if I could find the perfect word for it to say that it's the time to go to gold and silver right now anyway. It's just everything about it is the right time. The dollar is failing. They're going to try and take us into a central bank digital currency, and the accounting for the dollar will be gold and silver. Gold and silver will race up in value because they have to account for how many dollars are in print to revalue the new digital currency. This is the way it's happened over history when you go from one fiat currency to another. Gold and silver have always filled the gap in between the two currencies. Always, without exception. So historically, you need to go to gold and silver right now anyway. In other words, and by the way, what I mean by that is your savings. Savings need to be in gold and silver. And by the way, I'm not a financial consultant, and as far as I know, neither is John Williams. So we should say that from the onset. But we're not talking about investments here. We're talking about actually just storing your wealth, holding on to your wealth. Because if you hold on to it in paper, it will evaporate. And that's very possible in the stock market too. And once again, I'm not a financial expert and I'm not giving advice. But all I'm saying is dollars and dollar, derivatives like the stock market or even real estate, I don't think these things are going to do real well when the dollar, gets printed more. I really don't think they're going to do well. I think, as far as your savings goes, I think you might want to do a certain percentage of it in gold and silver. Like we're asking the state of Missouri to do in SB 100. We're asking the state of Missouri basically to hedge its bets and to put a portion of reserves or savings, I'm doing air quotes, of Missouri state savings into gold and silver, just like a responsible person would do with their life savings and their retirement account anyway. That's all we're asking Missouri to do with the repository, with the Treasury. It's the same concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's to those of us who use logic, it's a no-brainer. This is a win-win getting this done. Because not only, mainly we're protecting our future. And it's not just our future, it's our children's futures, our grandchildren's futures. We're protecting generations of people from horrible government spending. And at the federal level in D.C. and the Federal Reserve banks, we're protecting generations of people from corrupt government and giving them something, again, that they can hold on to, that they can see. And we'll protect them against the woes of these insidious people and their plans for all of us, which is to control the currency fully, and then just you said something we didn't like, so we're just flipping the switch, and now you can't have any of your digital currency. This is a way also, I guess, is to throw a wrench in the works as far as an institution or a group of institutions trying to control the entire population and their money. This is a good hedge against that as well, because now you have something as backup that can protect you if, because most of us liberty lovers, believe me, we're on a list, and we say the wrong thing, they'll just, shut up your account. And some of us may be able to go, well, yeah, what you don't know is how much gold and silver I'm holding right now, so you think I'm screwed, and I'm actually doing better than you are, because everything I have has value. Um,
Holy mackerel, what you just brought up, John, I got to talk about that for a second. That was pretty powerful. For those of us who have been censored, censorship is horrible. You build up this account, you get, your subscribers, your followers that are actually watching your content, all for it to be just taken away at a moment's notice. All the work that you have done to build that network, to build that channel, to actually communicate with others, suddenly gone in a heartbeat because the government said you said the wrong thing. You talked about COVID. You talked about the vaccine. You talked about election fraud, whatever. Pick a topic. YouTube is great at that. The same thing will apply to your digital wallet. Those who don't have, a following on social media or anything like that, they may not even understand how powerful, basically the federal government is in the regards of censorship and working with social media to shut you down. And as soon as your social media account is reflected, after we have a digital dollar, is, you've got a digital wallet, you've got digital dollars, you're getting your UBI coming in, your $200 digital dollars a month, and you're all fat and happy. And then you go on Twitter and you say, I think the 2022 election had some fraud in it. And then suddenly they're shutting down your digital wallet, where all your money is, where everything that you built and you're storing your wealth in, it's suddenly gone until you start behaving, until you do what the government says you should do. Then you can have your savings back. That's what we're looking at, folks. That's a level of censorship that, quite frankly, we don't even need to experience. I mean, just thinking about it is horrific enough. Thank you for bringing that up, John. I didn't make that connection until you said that.
Oh, yeah, it's just the conversations that I have with a couple guys at work. We talk about all these things, and it kind of keeps it fresh in my mind because, with China's what is it? Their whatever
social credit scoring.
Yeah, social credit scoring. I mean, those are the things that we're going to see at some point, and I'm sure it's not in the not too distant future, is what I'm thinking, because whatever these communist countries like doing, for some reason, I just can't put my finger on it. A lot of our congressmen seem to think it's a great idea as well, which means they're more than likely either out there communists or closet communists. But these things that these tyrannical states do and these countries do, for some reason, we have a lot of congressmen and people in places of power that seem to want to emulate what others are doing. And that's not based in freedom. It's not based in liberty. It's based in control, money, and power. All things that don't lead to a more prosperous people, a more happy people. It leads to a slave system. And so, again, we have to get over this mentality of it can't happen here. I don't know how many examples we have to give to people to say, yes, it can happen here. It's happening here. It will continue to happen here. Please stop with that mindset. This, you can't walk around saying, well, we'll never be like Nazi Germany or Venezuela or Russia or China or pick a country. We'll never be like them. Chances are we're already partly there. You have to, Tom Woods phrases it in a way, and I can't remember how he phrased it, but this unapologetic patriotism to a country to where it's so faulty where you think that these things will never happen. That's how they happen, because you believe in your head and then you hide yourself from the truth that the slow drip has been occurring, it's still occurring, will continue to occur until you decide to pull your head out of the sand and realize, yes, it can happen anywhere if you stay asleep and you allow these things to occur and you don't get involved. That's it.
Sure. And sure, gold and silver is just a layer of protection for Missourians. Basically, our SB 100 is a layer of protection from the digital dollar. That's what it is. And so this is important, gang, and other states will follow suit too, trust me. But it is very encouraging to see Bill Eigels, SB 100, get so much coverage from so many diverse places. That is really cool. That is really, really inspiring to see that. And it's nationwide, gang. I mean, whether it be the 10th Amendment Center out in California or Shift Gold in New York, Zero Hedge, I'm not even sure where they're at. But it's very, very nice to see. It's very encouraging for me to see that it's generating that much interest. And so, God bless all those people out there that are spreading the word, because it's not just Missouri that needs this bill. I'd love to see this bill in 20 states this year. 20 states. That'd make me super happy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a strong message that would be to the feds, the central banks, other countries.
Mm-hmm.
When I had Daniel Miller on, we talked about the secession and national divorce and all these things, but the amount of countries that have been created because a group of people said, we don't want to be a part of this anymore, and a new country's founded. That's happened so many times, even in the last 100 years. And
Yugoslavia,
yeah.
It's turned into like 5 countries, I think.
So
that's an example.
Yeah, and these things happen, and to say that, we can't do it that way, or why not? Why not? And it comes to a point in time where, I maybe it's me because I'm getting older and I'm getting crabby now, but sometimes I just look at people when they say things and I say, listen, you have two choices. You can, because a lot of people like to complain about the situation. They don't want to get involved. I was talking about some of the guys at work today. It's like people want to complain. They don't want to get involved. And at some point, you either put up or you shut up. I mean, you literally, you have to stand up and get involved, or there's no sense in complaining. There really isn't, because complaining, all it does is drive everyone around you insane unless you're in your echo chamber. Everybody else is like, oh, there he goes again. But you and everybody else in your group are really not getting anything done. You just enjoy the sound of your own voice. Or you can be productive. You can be productive and get involved and do good things that make you more free. But it's that time, folks. You either get involved or go enjoy your echo chamber. But in your echo chamber, you're literally, nothing's getting resolved. Everybody gets to have a moan session, and when it's done and you turn around, the crap's still happening. At some point, you have to put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants, because there's only 2 genders, and do the right thing. That's just, maybe I'm getting old and crabby now. I don't know.
No, and you're not, because, I've been wearing the velvet gloves here for about 5 years as I've been watching people in echo chambers. And it bothers me a great deal, but this year it's bothering me even worse. Because these people want to complain about everything from the federal government to everything happening at the state, but they won't do anything. They just stay in their echo chambers. And we've been able to confirm, we have talked to politicians. Politicians do not visit those echo chambers, so they're not affecting any change. They've got to get out of their echo chambers and start dealing with their state legislators. This is how you fix these things. Now, you can't fix D.C. You can mourn D.C. And I highly recommend that everyone strongly consider taking a day and just mourning D.C. because we're done there. By the way, that's my opinion. I don't think there's any saving D.C. at this point. And that comes from, holy mackerel, how long have I been politically active? Since I was about 17.
Oh, wow.
There's doing different things, but there's just no saving DC. The swamp is too deep. There's too much corruption. It's too late, and in fact, when I decided it was too late was 2004. That's in my mind when we have hit the point of no return. And, oddly enough, that was when Bush Jr. was envisioning or talking about what we call today Medicare Part D, free prescription drugs for seniors. Just giving away free stuff. And, of course, and then the cost of all the medicines went up dramatically. But of course, the federal government was, quote unquote, paying for it with your tax dollars and giving it to senior citizens. And once again, and I knew that the price of drugs would go up every year. So the federal government would have to pay more every year. That to me was like, this is just it. I mean, we're not going to stop this nonsense in D.C., but you can stop it in your state. Well, most states can. And I want to give a shout out to someone I know who's not listening right now, and that's the California Freedom Alliance, and that's Alex's group. And because they're actually looking to take silver and gold to the state of California to see if they can get something done there. And that takes a lot of guts. I mean, honest to God, I've been very critical of California. I've said California's gone many times, but there are still people out there fighting, and good for them, and they should. And if you live in that state, you need to fight, because, that state's quickly getting taken over by Chinese money. That state, I think, is pretty much gone now. Hollywood is owned by China now. Silicon Valley's owned by China out there. The farmland's owned by China out there. I mean, there's really nothing left out there. So China, pretty much has their fingers in every pie over there. So that's the way I look at D.C., is that basically the Federal Reserve has its finger in every pie. The Federal Reserve is and the people who control the Federal Reserve are the ones actually controlling D.C. You and I don't have any say there. We have no impact. Our opinions don't matter. And of course, now that and we're on YouTube, so I'll be very gentle. Now that there's, questionable voting patterns happening in our general elections, we're done. I mean, it's just over. Missouri is looking at getting rid of all electronic counting machines. And that's something I think that I personally will get behind. I don't know if the group will do that one, but we'll have to look into it. But our elections are tainted, gang. I mean, it's unfortunate, but not even the elections work anymore. So if your government's not working for you, the old adage was, hey, listen, wait till the next cycle. You vote that piece of trash out and get someone good in. You can't get the piece of trash out. No matter what you do, you simply can't. Like Roy Blunt, we couldn't get him out. As much as, many people tried, but he just could not get him out. He was too dug in. And whether or not there was election fraud, I don't know. But I'm just saying it was impossible to get him out. Everyone knew he was dirty. And to make matters worse, basically as Roy Blunt was coming close to, quote unquote, retiring, from the Senate, becoming a billionaire in the Senate, a lot of people were celebrating him and naming things after him. And he did a lot of damage in his time in D.C., believe you me. This whole mess that we have with trade with China can be tracked back to two people, particularly, Roy Blunt and Mitt Romney. The whole bringing China into the WTO was Nixon. So, but bringing China to most favored nation trading status, that was Roy Blunt and Mitt Romney. If anyone needs anyone to blame for our trade issues with China, those are the two men you blame, by the way.
Yeah, I remember years ago on my old show, Re-Education Radio, I had a guy from, I was reading an article on like one of the Tea Party groups up near St. Louis, and they said in that article that they were going to hold their nose and vote for Blunt, but they were going to hold him accountable. And I'm like, now you're going to hold him accountable? He's been voted in several times, and now you're going to hold him accountable? Yep. It was meaningless. It was worthless. You shouldn't even have said that, because now you look like an utter fool saying that kind of thing, because he's been corrupt from day one. He's only getting worse, and now you're going to, like, that literally, they really didn't have any other options to give people. Just vote for Blunt because it's better than a Democrat, really. I had a guy from the Franklin County Tea Party on, and we were talking about, and this is when I covered a lot of federal issues. We were talking about D.C. and how much money it took to run for president. Just how much money you had to have for all the commercials and all this stuff. And he was like, well, we just need to elect an honest person, or an honorable person for president. And I said, when you have to literally have billions of dollars to run, how many honorable people do you know with billions of dollars that are going to run for president and that are going to be good for the American people? I said, name one. And he just it got quiet. But I'm like, come on, buddy. If you're really about freedom, that should, thinking that someone, you got to have $4 billion and thinking that somebody honest is going to come out. Ron Paul was the only one. Now, Ron Paul probably would have won that primary had they not changed the rules 5 minutes before the convention began. He had the delegates. He was going to win, and it scared the bejesus out of them. He's the only one. But look at what he did. He had, out of everybody running, he got more money from either active duty or veterans in the military than just about all the rest of them combined. And that's how he was able, and his message was so strong and so bulletproof that they couldn't tear him down. His actions in Congress would not allow him to be torn down. That's it. That's the only guy. Now, he didn't have billions, but his message was so good. It resonated with so many young people, middle-aged people, old people. It resonated with everybody because they knew he spoke the truth. But besides him, who else? I don't know of anybody. No one.
Yep.
So, it's just,
and here we are once again, doing that thing where we're complaining about the federal government. But you know what happens when I do that? I turn that anger and that rage into actually being productive in the state of Missouri and making sure that my daughter and my grandkids don't succumb to, communism, because unfortunately, the type of communism we're heading towards is called feudalism. And that's what's coming, whether we like it or not, whether we want to discuss it or not, whether, we want to debate it or not, whether or not we want to engage our politicians about it or not, doesn't matter. Just like the digital dollar is coming, so is communism. And so we're fighting that here in Missouri. So Missouri will be a more comfortable place to live when the federal government goes rogue and goes communist. This is why the first thing you do is you secure your right to your firearms. We did that with SAFA. And now we need to secure the money. That's gold and silver. Now we're working on that this year. There's other things we need to do too, but we're preparing. We're prepping our state. We are one big giant prepping state is what we're becoming. We're prepping because we know what's coming from the federal government. That's what we do.
And you think about it. So you get your firearms protected, and you have sound money, and then you go out. After those things are done, then we can start hitting on property taxes, personal property taxes, all these things we can attack, because the two of the things we need the most are well protected. And then we just start chiseling away at government and at the taxation and things like that. And slowly, we didn't lose our freedom overnight. We're not going to get it back overnight. They've extorted us out of our money for years. We're not going to get it all back in one night. But man, you keep your firearms, you keep your gold and silver, and you spend your gold and silver however you like, and then you start working on things like taxes. And keeping more of your money, keeping more of the money that you go to work for every day, Monday through Friday, or 6 days a week, 7 days a week, however much you work, you get to keep more of that money that you work so hard for. That's huge. That's just huge. And it's... Well,
maybe someday, if they push us far enough, and you've got some great comments in the comments section, but... maybe at some point we'll nullify the Federal Reserve in the state of Missouri. We'll just say, we're not dealing with, what is it, the 19th Amendment, the Federal Reserve Act? Is that 16th or 19th?
I believe that's the 16th Amendment.
16th, okay. Nullify that and say, we're sorry, that was not ratified. We're not going to be following that in the state of Missouri anymore. Do not expect anyone in the state of Missouri. It's voluntary. If they want to send you money, to the Federal Reserve or to the IRS, they can. but it's not a requirement that people living in our state. And please don't come in here trying to force people. Otherwise, we'll have to take out all of our guns that we protected with the Second Amendment Preservation Act. So, but I want to say, Sam I Am wrote a great comment. It says, I worked in China for 20 plus years. No, not anything government related. And the only difference between the average Chinese and the average American is that we think in America that our government is benevolent. That is a very powerful statement. The average American, you're right, Sam I Am, the average American citizen doesn't realize how corrupt and crooked and evil the federal government is. And it's exemplified. But what I started talking about with John today is that there is a guy who is a card-carrying member of the WEF that the GOP is fighting tooth and nail to get into the speakership. That's Kevin McCarthy. Why? Why are we trying so hard to get this WEF member into Congress? Well, then they've got basically the Senate and the House and the president covered. The WEF wins. Basically it's checkmate. They control basically the leadership positions of, the House, the Senate, and the White House. The only thing that's left, I suppose, at that point is the Supreme Court, and I'm not sure that they care too much about the Supreme Court. But it's demonstrably, it's a horrible situation that we have let ourselves get into. And the WEF is literally taking over. I'm not even quite sure how. They got so much power. I don't know how so many companies partnered with them and send them money. I mean, I don't know how that works, but clearly there's something else going on behind the scenes that none of us are aware of that keeps all of them tied together, that keeps them from turning on one another. And I suspect that it's their love of Gaia or, Druidism or their worship of Mother Nature. And I think that's somewhat related. And it may be Satan worship too. I just don't know. I'd hate to accuse that many people in the GOP and the U.S. House of Satan worshiping. But I don't know why these guys, I mean, literally, clearly these guys are either stupid or they're evil. I mean, which one would you rather be, And by the way, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of it sometimes is they've been promised more power. I mean, honestly, I think some of these people, if you say, hey, if you do this, then I'm going to give you X, Y, and Z, and they're like, great, let's do it. I mean, there's no thought. I'm going to get more power? Okay. I'm going to get more money? Okay. Because they don't think about the repercussions for everybody else because they're clearly there for themselves. They're not there for us. Yep. They're there for them. So if they've been promised something else in return, yeah, you got my vote, bro. I mean, it's sometimes it's just the love of power and money, and they're sucked in, and you can't. Again, I can think of one guy in D.C. who I trust, Thomas Massey. That's it. That's literally the only guy that at any time I go, well, he's not going to go rogue, but the rest of them, I'm not sure. He's literally the only one. And when you have one person out of 435 total?
Yep.
What hope do you have of ever changing a system where 1 out of 435 seems incorruptible? The odds are not in your favor. In that cesspool called the District of Columbia, it's not conducive for getting good things done unless you're up there. If you're a corporation and you're trying to write regulations so it wipes out your competition, oh, that's good for them. If you're a politician, you get more money and power, good for them. But for us, not so good.
Yep. And so that's why I brought it up. And I really do think that it's incumbent upon us to actually watch D.C. and act in Missouri. That's what we do. Because this is frightening stuff going on in D.C. right now. And I know that the media is turning it into, anyone who disagrees with putting McCarthy in, by the way, this is a terrorist. Mm-hmm. And that was Crawford, I believe, who said that it was passed by the mainstream media. I mean, that kind of language is incendiary to begin with. But actually, to suggest that when you and I and many people know that McCarthy is WEF, he is World Economic Forum. He does not believe in the sovereignty of the United States. And the House just was won by Republicans. They have to show that they're going to be different than Biden. If you get McCarthy in there, unfortunately, you're not going to get a difference. That's the problem. So do I care who goes in the House of Representatives? Actually, honest to God, I do. I truly do, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. What I'm trying to do is raise awareness that the GOP is fighting to get a WEF member into the speakership. And that's a frightening scenario for me personally. I mean, there's nothing else that tells us we have to work harder and we have to work faster. We have to work longer hours to free our state from these bonds, from the federal government bonds.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. We literally don't have any choice in any of this. It's freaking sucks, but
yep.
we just don't. We literally, again, I don't want to come on here and sound doom and gloom. I really don't. That's not what I want to do. But it's hard to avoid not saying it because it's true. We have got to do something about this mess. Sticking your head in the sand, pretending it's not happening, or just crying in an echo chamber. It hasn't done anything yet. It's not going to do anything later, unless you're going to, I don't know, maybe some of these people are just trying to cry enough to where they get other people to do the work for them. I'm not about that. I want to see things done. I want to participate, and I want to participate in my own liberty. I want to participate in my own freedom. Things I don't want to participate in are government programs, or helping government grow, or giving government more of my money, those are things I don't want to participate in. But I'd love to participate in making my own choices, keeping more of my money, not having to beg the government for permission to do just about anything like you have to do nowadays. Those are things that I really don't want to participate in. Freedom and liberty, yeah. Give me more of that, please. You know, that's like going to an Italian restaurant and getting like stuffed manicotti, and you're still a little bit hungry, and they're like, "Do you want more of that?" And like, that's a stupid question. Yeah, give me more of that. Give me more stuffed manicotti. Give me more liberty, stuff, freedom, please, on my plate right now. Let me shovel it in. Oh.
Yeah, well, as long as you're in the back doing the dishes to pay for your meal, you know.
Yeah, whatever. I'll do it.
But Wilderness Gal brought up something. We need to stop funding the beast. And for Wilderness Gal, I'll tell you, that's a hard thing to do these days. If you look up the partner list with the WEF, unfortunately, you're going to find just about every corporation, you know, in America, you know, and that, by the way, not every corporation in America, but most corporations are partnered with the WEF. I don't understand how this happened and how this came about. How did this WEF, which, by the way, we all knew it as Davos, the Davos meeting, if you guys remember. And that's always in Davos, Switzerland, I believe. And so we've always referred to it as Davos. And now we know it as World Economic Forum, but it was the World Economic Forum that hosted Davos every year. And now they're coming out, striking out, you know, basically with their big plan for the Great Reset. Well, the Great Reset, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, is nothing more than literally changing out one currency for another. That's what it's all about. There's their power right there. If we deny them this power by having access to gold and silver and saying no to the digital dollar personally, I'm not talking about on a state level or even a country level, but on a personal level. If you're transacting in gold and silver and the businesses that you do business with locally are doing gold and silver, and if you get your employer, you know, to, you know, either pay you in cash or in gold and silver, I mean, you can kind of start getting out of that beast system. So, but it is tough to get out of that beast system because of the major corporations that are partnered with the WEF. It's actually kind of depressing. If you go to a WEF forum and look at the partner list, I mean, it's pretty extensive. It's huge, actually. I will point out, because people have pointed out to me, and but I don't trust him, and that's Elon Musk. None of Elon Musk's businesses are partnered with the WEF, and people point that out to me all the time. He's got to be a good guy. He's got to be a good guy. I reserve judgment on Elon Musk. Sometimes I think he's a good guy. Sometimes I think he's, a sleeper.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And I mean, he's one of those type of guys that he's not flat out evil. He does some good things. And then sometimes you're like, come on, Elon. But at least he has the intestinal fortitude to call some things out, especially on Twitter, when he says my pronouns are prosecute Fauci, things like that. I can appreciate that. What he's done with the Twitter files by not giving them to mainstream journalists and giving them to impartial journalists has also been very well done. I have to congratulate him on things like that because most people would have just handed it off to CBS or NBC and it would have gone by the wayside. They wouldn't even spoken of it. They would have treated it like yesterday's trash and thrown it out. So I will give him props where they are due. But I like you, Patrick, I'm going to reserve my judgment on a total, on the grand scale of things until he shows his actual true colors. Who knows? Who knows what that's going to be? But it's interesting. It's and it's one of those things where again, as much as we talk about how government oversteps its bounds, what's good is we have people on both sides of the political aisle that even it's too much for them, and they figure out a loophole. They come up with some piece of technology or a website or something as a loophole and a way out for people to either express opinions, do business, do something without all this oversight and without the snooping. So as much as government does awful things, fortunately for us here in the U.S., we still have a lot of entrepreneurs, people that are business savvy, don't like the way the system's set up, and they're finding workarounds, and those people need to be propped up. We need to talk about those folks. We need to lead people to them and help them out because they're the folks that are making it possible for us to stay completely out of this entrenched system that, unfortunately, all of us are pretty much a part of. But if it helps us eke out a little bit here and there, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I salute those folks because we definitely need more of those. And I think as time goes on and more people come up with these solutions, we're going to see more and more people get a little more brave and network with these folks, and we're going to see more and more little loopholes found for folks like us who just want to be left alone. While they still can, of course, because once these idiots try to take total control, they'll try to put a kibosh on that whole thing. But right now, we still have that opportunity for savvy people to come up with ways to help us secure a little more liberty, a little more privacy, and maybe a little more money. And I can really appreciate people like that.
Yeah, and censorship is a big issue too. And we don't deal with that directly. We should, but and I've been critical of Trump when he was in office, when he was being censored. And the threats of censorship on Twitter. He should have literally moved to Mastodon or another, service that's similar to Twitter. Mastodon's just an example, guys. I'm not saying he should have gone there. But to show us how the free market works, he should have said, if they threaten you with censorship, you move on to a free platform, a freer platform, one that guarantees free speech or one that says they're free speech. He wouldn't do that. He hung out there. He could have spoken out against the censorship, but he didn't really do it. And in fact, I tracked that very closely. And all Trump said is, we're looking into it and we're watching. That's all he said, when censorship. Well, the censorship continued unabated and got significantly worse even before he left office. If you guys remember, this became an issue. Diamond and Silk were, testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee. and talking about how they were censored right off of YouTube, and nothing got done. They're still off of YouTube. And we're talking about, this was like 6 years ago, gang, 5 years ago, something like that. So censorship has not gotten better. Now with Twitter, it's a little different now. With Elon Musk in there, I can tell, and by the way, I'm not being shadow banned anywhere near as often since Elon took over. So I can say something positive is definitely happening there on the back end. But I was being shadow banned on Twitter, and of course, you guys know we got shut down on Discord. Our Discord was shut down. They were following Google rules, at the same rules that YouTube follows. And YouTube, we kept getting strikes. And then when I got a strike for a 10-month-old video for a new rule that just came out, and then that's when I'm done. We'll upload stuff to YouTube again and everything, but we'll never hold live streams there again. But censorship's important to fight, because that's, basically how they get you. That's how you're going communist, is when they censor free speech. After all, if we can't have free speech, the free exchange of ideas and information, we can't improve as a culture. We can't improve our technology. It's just a much slower growth on technology because of censorship. That's why, Russia was so far behind us for so long. And the only way they were able to keep up with us is by literally infiltrating and espionage and spying and, ripping off our ideas, our technological advances. That's the only way they could do it, because they were so heavily censored there. Scientists were afraid to talk to one another too. How do we, this may sound stupid and esoteric, but it matters. We had color television about 6 or 7 years before Russia did. And Russia got it by stealing it from England, who we gave it to. Russia couldn't even figure out how to do it. I mean, that's how bad censorship was in Russia in the 50s, in the 60s. And that's just, I know that sounds like a really stupid example, but it is an example of how bad censorship can slow down, technological advancement. So we can actually do better as a society. And by the way, it works against you too. For instance, AI is not necessarily a technology I'm looking forward to further development. But at the same time, the censorship on the political side of things is horrible, because there's only one point of view that gets across. Go on Facebook sometime and try to espouse for conservatism or liberty or the Constitution. You'll quickly find out, in Facebook, they're paying attention and they start shutting you down. They start reducing your circulation immediately. And before long, you put up a picture of a bunny rabbit and it's blurred out, and and there's a button you have to press to go see the picture because the picture is offensive. This is how bad the algorithms have been set up in such a way that their traps are catching everything now. They're not just catching, what they wanted to censor, they're catching everything else too. And so that's what happens on a real level with speech, with censorship. People start censoring themselves to the point they stop talking about things because they're worried, they're afraid. Well, it's kind of like me talking with you tonight, John. I mean, I don't want to have anything to do with hurting your channel. And I know you've told me before, speak your mind, Pat, tell the truth. And I appreciate that, and I love you for it. But I also know that YouTube doesn't appreciate that sort of talk, especially when it comes to elections or COVID or mask mandates or the vaccine, that they're killing. This is a global depopulation event that's going on right now. Whether or not we talk about it, that's what's being censored out. There are very, very reputable scientists all over Europe crying foul about the vaccine, and they don't get a voice. They don't get to talk. They get censored out of everywhere. Yet these are reputable scientists, virologists, epidemiologists saying they're killing people. They're doing it on purpose. That's what they've come to now. They didn't say that originally, but now that's what they're saying because they're being censored so heavily.
Well, Dr. Peter McCullough just released another video. I mean, I don't know if he just released it, but I saw a video clip of it talking about the vaccines. He's like, they're killing people. The vaccines are killing people. Now, again, what he's done is he's grouping up with other doctors They've got a website. They don't take insurance. They sell nutraceuticals for, like cardiovascular, neurological, all these different things. But I think you pay, God, is it 59, 69 bucks, and you can do televisits with MDs. Now, that's for you and one other person. So that's a heck of
Yeah.
a price. And then they will guide you through a healing process. Um, and then, you've got Charles Lewis, who's looking at opening up these clinics and doing his medical thing. And folks, another bright side to those who love medical freedom, another bright side to gold and silver is as the medical system corrupts more and more, some of these doctors, some of these good doctors are going to pull out. They're going to open up their own clinic. They're not going to take insurance because they don't want to deal with that headache. You know what they're going to take? They'll take gold and silver all day long. That's going to be
You bet.
another helpful thing as the medical system breaks down and people break away and people create other systems so you can still get your medical care, but without the insurance involvement. Gold and silver is going to be a very, very nice way of paying for that doctor's visit because and that's, again,
It's outside of the system. It's outside of insurance.
right.
It kills so many birds with one stone. You get the federal government out, you get the dollar out, you get the insurance companies out, you get the actuary tables out, and then suddenly he's more interested in curing you than he is, treating you. So so there's many benefits.
Yeah, and like John Grady said with Slap Happy Beverages or Beverage Company, they're soon going to have some nutraceutical pain gummies available. So when he announces that and he lets me know, then I will let you all know about that too, because my wife has used some for some back and neck pain, and I'm not a doctor, but she said, yeah, they work. They help me out. And
John,
that's
I'd
all I
love
need
to
to
say
know.
something real quick.
Go ahead, man.
And this is for John Grady. And I need to do a video about this. I, too, have had a disc problem. It's almost completely healed now. But I've had a disc problem, and it's been going on for about 5, maybe 6 weeks now. And I've been taking Mellocello, and also I've been testing the gummies as well. And I get to sleep all through the night without waking up because I've moved, my hips a certain way that sends shock waves of pain down my left leg or whatever. That ain't happening. I can actually sleep through the night. I mean, this is I only take it at night before I go to bed, but it stops me from just, I don't know, gobbling down ibuprofen, which is not good for your liver. I mean, I try real hard not to do that when I have a back outage. But I want to say that Mellocello and the gummies have been a lifesaver for me. I've never done that before, and I'm doing it now, and I'm never going back to ibuprofen again. I'm never doing. I mean, this is much healthier, and it actually does take the pain away rather than take it down to a manageable level. The pain is like gone, So thank you very much for those products, and I am a customer of John Grady's with Mellocello, and also I've been testing the gummies. And once again, I'm a very, very happy customer. In fact, if you're coming up on the 11th, John, I need to buy some more product from you.
Yeah, I'm going to be there on. Oh, you're talking about John Grady, but yeah,
Yeah.
I bet you he will be there. I would just about guarantee that John will be there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the 11th big time. Again, I'm gonna hang with you guys. I want to meet with Representative Sander to talk to him about a bill that I would like to work on in the not too distant future. And and I also would like to talk to I can't think of his name now. The guy that had the recreational marijuana bill last year. Oh, Ron Hicks. I want to sit down and talk. I want to sit down and talk to him a little bit too, and see what he has planned since Amendment 3 passed. If he's got some plans for legislation on to curb some of that stuff or whatever. So hopefully that would be great.
Yep. So and that's a great reminder for everyone. guys, if you come up with us, it's not like you're married to us. And if you have other business you need to conduct up in Jeff City, conduct it while you're up there. Take advantage of every minute. I mean, those who run up there with us see that we take advantage of every minute, except for the occasional cigarette break. Otherwise, we're going down those halls and going door to door to door to door. But that's the thing. I've seen Goatfoot Grant, have other business he's conducting up in Jeff City sometimes, and others. And I encourage that. Man, this is getting involved. This is exactly what you do. Casey Rich has other business sometimes. This is why you're there. You're getting involved. You're actually working with your legislators to make your state a better place. Of course, you should, if you have other business other than what we're doing there, do that as well. So, it's no one takes offense to that is all I mean by that. I'm glad people take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing because not only that, but, if you're working with a legislator on a bill, not only are you working on something you're passionate about, but it's also a learning experience because they can help guide you through the process so you have a better understanding of what has to be done in order to get a bill, doing through all those different steps, and it helps make you a better communicator to others. And once you learn the process and you're like, hey, I'd really like to get this done, you find a legislator that's willing to work with you, and because you know what's going on, it helps both of you. Your legislator's helping you, and you're helping him, and they welcome the help too. So, kind of killing two birds with one stone there. But yeah, it's a fantastic learning experience, and I think it's something that a lot of people would find enriching because it removes the stigma that you can't talk to these people and you can't work with them. It will absolutely remove that myth from your mind, and it gets you to realize that you can work with these people and you can communicate with them.
And almost all of them are so much fun to visit with. So like I'll give a pitch again for Sherry Tolson Reich.
Yeah,
she is a hoot.
Oh,
she
my
is
God.
So much fun to visit with when we go up there. I look forward to seeing her in her office and everything. And by the way, almost everyone in Jeff City, representatives and senators alike, are happy to see you. The weird thing is I hate to do this again, but I hate to go after Justin Brown one more time. But he never seems happy to see people when they come by to visit him. He looks annoyed, when people come by and visit him. I'd love to say the same thing about Lincoln Huff, but I can't get in to see him because his chief of staff keeps blocking me at the threshold. I can't get inside of his office. And I'm not joking, by the way, gang. That's for real. So Lincoln Huff doesn't like me a whole lot or something. I mean, that's the only thing I could probably guess on that.
I wonder why. I mean, it's not like I don't think we've ever trash talked that guy or anything, have we? I don't think so.
Not really.
No.
Today's the first time. Well, no, we have, because he's been talking about, weakening SAPA.
Right.
So,
I was joking because I know we've trash talked him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, if you're not doing the will of the people, then some trash talking is going to occur. That's just how it goes.
They're trash talking us when they're talking about weakening SAPA, John.
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. They're gleefully stabbing us all in the back because they've been promised something and now they're going to get their reward. One of these days they're going to get the reward, and the reward is not the one they were hoping for. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, me too, because a lot of these guys get rewarded with leadership positions up in the General Assembly sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the, What's up?
Oh, Wilderness Gal said, "Who's John flipping off? I didn't realize you were flipping someone off."
I've got this ring light. My son bought me this ring light. So because the LED lights in my ceiling fan are so bright, and because I'm whiter than Casper the Ghost, my forehead is glaring. And so I'm trying to get the light softened down. But this thing will just ramp up to full blast, and I got the remote, and I'm turning it down. And then I turned it down to where it's normally at, and then 2 minutes later it kicked back up again, so I turned it back down again, and then I flipped it off. And now it's now it's cooperating. It's kind of weird. Do I have AI ring light that I'm unaware of? I don't know. But yeah, I showed it who was number one, and then now it's decided to behave itself again. I felt kind of stupid there, but I was getting irritated because I'm getting blasted in the face with this really bright light, and I'm like, there goes my gleaming forehead, I'm like one of those what do they call those things? They set them on the coast. The good Lord, sets up in the tower with the light.
Oh, like a lighthouse?
Yeah, lighthouse. Yeah, my forehead's like a lighthouse for people, and they're all probably staring at their screen like, turn it down, make it go away. It's like, sorry, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Well, your forehead almost became translucent enough for us to see your brain. We were real close to that.
Yeah, you wouldn't see much, let me tell you. It's pretty empty up there, but I can't help it.
No, it's a big, big brain.
Oh, okay. Is that what we're going with? Because
That's right.
I'm sure people would beg to differ on that, but screw them. Who needs them anyway? So any other anything else we want to cover tonight? Because I'm drawing a blank right now, Patrick. But is there another? I mean, just
there is one. Yeah, there's one more thing. First of all, you know the dates. Of course, email goes out tomorrow morning, live stream tomorrow night, and we'll talk a little bit more about Knock and Shock at Gold and Silver Day. Knock and Shock, same thing. And then we have, of course, February 9th, which is another Bill Eigel Freedom Fest in Springfield, Missouri. Just keep that date in mind. The details are coming soon. But the other thing I want to talk about is the model for what we call our legislative meet and greets. What was put together as a brainchild of John Grady's and John Williams, your host here with the Missouri Liberty Report. That model is being used. We're doing some more meet and greets. I'm having a little bit of an issue securing location right now, but I'm working on that. In fact, I hope to have it done by Monday. But we have one for the 29th of January up in Eureka. And it's the same model that John Grady and John Williams threw together. And we're continuing that model. These are popular, not only with the politicians that get to come and talk, but they do mostly listen with this model. And I think it's a brilliant model. But they also do talk as well. But we are going to continue that probably through the month of February. And I think we'll, look at doing that, during the summer months too, or something like that, where summer going into winter when the legislative body's not in session. But I just want to say to John Grady and to John Williams, thank you so much. I mean, you guys have brought a lot to the organization just by even having the first one and showing us all how it's done. That is a beautiful thing. This is what we're all here for. We're here to learn from each other. We're here to foster relationships with our politicians, as good a relationship as we can possibly have with our politicians so we can get good things done. These legislative meet and greets go a long way towards that goal. So a big shout out to both John Grady and you, John Williams, for, showing me the light, showing us how to do it with the legislative meet and greets. An old model that's being revisited, basically, and it's very, very much appreciated.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, Sam and Trish secured the bank basement. John printed out the flyers and got in touch with Ben Brown. I was in touch with Representative Sassman. It was a nice group effort, and the turnout was better than I expected for our area. And now, I will say this. The one in Eureka on the 29th, if you want to come hear an idiot speak, I will be emceeing that event. I told Gary that I would MC the event. So if you want to hear an idiot speak for, a short time, then please. And then listen to, here's the great thing. The idiot will open, and then all these, super smart people will talk after me. So it just gets better as we go throughout the day. I will say this. This whole the first meet and greet we did, the trips to Jefferson City, working with Patrick and the Missouri Freedom Initiative, people like Grant and Gary and KC and John Grady and all these people. Normally I just get up and I talk, but I really want to have a message for that event. So I told my wife, I said, I'm actually going to have to sit down, type it out, print it out, so I don't go off script like I normally do, start talking about one thing, veer off, and then forget what the heck I'm talking about. So I'm actually going to have a structured kind of little speech to give, which is very unusual for me. But it's something, again, I've got to get used to. But I'm looking forward, and hopefully, Patrick, you get yours lined out, because I'll definitely be there for that one as well.
Yep.
This is really, really exciting. What, and again, to me, that was kind of like, well, the one here in Owensville, honestly, I was like, let's see what happens. I didn't hold out a lot of hope. And then, between yourself and Tom Martz and Sassman and Brown and then Ron Calzone being there and the guy from the Franklin County Republican Committee being there and several other folks, I was blown away. Gary was there. John Grady was there. It was Sam and Trish from MOLibertyRadio.us were there. It was fantastic. It was amazing. And then I don't have the video anymore. My son showed me, he used his gimbal and he took a video with my phone and he just kind of angled it around. He showed me, the video looks so great but he's more practiced at that. I'm not trying to make something super professional for the video that I want to do, but I just want people to get a understanding of how easy it is to walk the halls and do all these things. The gimbal is going to be a great addition because every trip we go, I think, for at least the next few that we go, I'm going to take that along and video it and kind of document what we do. Maybe we can talk a little bit about our plans for that day and just show everybody kind of the steps that we take. We all kind of come to agreement what the mission is that day. And if we have a large crowd, we break off into groups and we start walking. And to document this stuff, A, shows how easy it is, shows people how easy it is, and B, if we can be a guide stone for others, even in this state or other states, I mean, that's just amazing in and of itself. If we can be teachers as well as being proactive in our state, that's just a double win right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And well, and I said earlier, because John Grady had said, it's an old model, but the things from the past shouldn't be abandoned, and that's exactly right. Because this gets people out of the echo chambers. We found a way to do it, which is find a physical location that's close to them, that they don't have to drive all the way to Jeff City, because the average person has to drive quite a ways to get to Jeff City. But it's close to them. It's in their hometowns, and they can meet with their senator and their representative. I mean, this is the way things used to be. Basically, state senators and representatives 30 years ago used to do meet and greets all the time. And now it's lost, because of the internet and because of social media. And it's a better model. Of physically meeting with your senator and representative is a better way to meet them. There's a lot of things to consider here. There's language, there's tone, there's body language. There's all kinds of things you can learn at these events. Plus, you can look them square in the eye, look her square in the eye, and talk to them about things that deeply concern you, things that you want done in the state of Missouri. And you can get that across. Whereas if you send them a tweet, you don't even know if they read it. They probably don't, actually. So it's an attempt, in my opinion. The old ways actually can solve the new problems, which is echo chambers. And that's why I love the model, and I'm so grateful for everyone who participated in setting it up. John Williams, John Grady, and then I forgot to mention Sam, and I apologize about that. I know Sam was instrumental as well. So it's a model we need to keep. Even Ron Calzone came to the Owensville, and he really enjoyed it. In fact, his words to me were, it was a tremendous opportunity. That's what Ron Calzone said to me about going to that meet and greet. So he thanked me, where I was like thanking him. And it's like, having a rock star like Ron Calzone show up at a legislative meet and greet, you kind of, give him the main speaker position because he's so smart and he's got so much data to share and important information to convey. And we did that for Ron while he was there too. But even he was like, these models need to be followed. We need to do more of this all over the state. So that's what we're doing.
I will say that I've kind of narrowed down. Hopefully it works for everybody, but I've kind of been eyeballing the month of March for another one, and I'm going to try really hard. Oh, my goodness, I forgot her name. The gal that spoke on the WEF. Oh, Michelle.
Latham.
Yeah, Michelle Latham. I am going to contact, if I can get a date set in March, I'm going to see if she'll come up and speak. Patrick, you're more than welcome. Anybody is more than welcome. But I want to get her kind of as a keynote speaker to come up and talk if she will, and I will get her the gas money, whatever I got to do. Feed her, give her gas money, anything she needs to come up and speak for a while on this Global Shapers group that's showed up in Cape Girardeau. But I'm going to try to set one up in March and see if she's available and kind of nail that date down and speaker wise and everything. And again, I will ask Sassman and Ben Brown to come as well. I will invite them as well. But yeah, any more speakers the better. I don't want to have too many speakers because I'd like to keep the crowd's attention. But I would like at least.
Top of which you have to shorten the amount of time they have to speak per speaker when you do that as well.
Yeah. So I'd like to give Michelle plenty of time. And if Patrick, if you're able to make it, give you some time. And then we'll let Sassman and Brown speak. But, yeah, I definitely want to get Michelle Latham up here if I can. I think that would be a real eye-opener. And I'm hoping with the second one we'll get a little bit bigger crowd to show up. I talked to Sam and Trish. I said maybe 2 or 3 of these a year would be great, especially because we had one. Now we get in March, midway through the legislative session, to try to get people, up to date on what's going on, what we want to work on, what we'd like to see done. Have people like Michelle speak and do things like that. And then I also got to nail down another date in March to get Tom Martz up here to do a constitutional class as well.
There you go. That sounds great.
And then, just try to build up the crowd. And I would be sincerely happy if we had to find a bigger place to hold the meetings because we get enough people showing up. That would be fantastic. But we'll see how that goes. But it is what it is. I was just happy with the turnout. I was super happy that Ron Calzone showed up and spoke. Very informative. And it was, what else was really nice? For the most part, they kept their attention. Everybody who spoke kept the attention of the audience, and that was fantastic. Because as long as that went on, that's hard to do, and they all stuck around for the whole thing. And that was pretty amazing.
Yep. And I want to say one more thing. I mean, honest to God, I love it when you speak. You're funny. You keep everyone's attention. I mean, holy mackerel. You have a real gift that you don't even realize yet. And part of the charm of your public speaking is the self-deprecating humor. And you do it again when you talk about how stupid you are when you speak, which you're not. And, that's just one of the wonderful quirks that you have there that makes up what we would call charm. So, but at any rate, guys, don't listen to him. He's not a dumb speaker. He's actually really good, informative, and funny at the same time. And unfortunately, I don't have that gift. So you get the entertainment factor with John along with information, which probably makes him more entertaining to listen to than anyone else.
Honestly, for those of you that don't know me that well, humor is how I deal with things. Humor is how I deal with stress. Humor is how I deal with awful stuff. That's how I get through. And because I'm so freaking nervous about speaking in front of people that I have to open with some kind of joke or that goofy little poem that I wrote that's 2 lines, whatever, to get a response from the crowd to know that, okay, they're listening, they're kind of engaged, they found that stupid little thing I said, amusing, calms me down, and then I'm able to soldier through the rest of it. But that's how I have to do it. If I just came in dry and just went, okay, here's my talk, it would seem so odd to me, and it would be awkward. And humor is my thing. I mean, I just like having a I like my sense of humor as dark as it can be sometimes, and I like to I like for people to, I want people to laugh. I don't want people being there the whole time and everything's just, again, gloom and doom. I want people to enjoy themselves, get a little bit of a laugh, and get some information. I think that's the best way to go about things, because then it's not just some boring monotone speech and everybody's like, oh my God, dude, get off the stage, would you please? So yeah, that's just my recipe for somewhat of success, it really helps me get through speaking. But I appreciate that Gary's letting me MC his event. And I told my wife, I was like, I have a feeling that I'm going to be doing some traveling this year and maybe emceeing some events. And I said, I guess I got to get used to it. And it is fun because I got to meet people at our event. When I went to the Prepared Homestead meeting, I felt awkward in there. I felt way overdressed, and then people were just coming up to me and talking to me. I didn't know who they were. That was so freaking amazing. That is probably the coolest meeting that I've ever been to. It was informative. The people are so nice, and they're just welcoming. It's like you're a long lost friend they haven't seen in 20 years. They're like, come on in here and get you something to eat and do this and do that, and coming up and just having conversations with you. It's like being amongst a big group of friends. I was blown away, and I definitely want to make more of those meetings too, because that was super awesome.
You know what's really neat about that? I love that you said that, because that's the same feeling I get when I drive up for the Prepared Homestead meeting. And I drive up to that metal building, that big metal building they have it at, and I see people outside. It's like it's a feeling like you've just arrived home after a long day. That's what it kind of feels like on the inside. You're home. That's what I think of when I think of Travis's meetings. It's like being home. Your castle, your safe space, your place where you can relax and not worry. Travis's folks are the best folks. I mean, they're the spices of the earth. They're the salt of the earth, I mean. So anyone who has not made a Prepared Homestead meeting, you're missing out. It's not just how good the meetings are. It's how wonderful the people are and the networking opportunities you have there.
Yeah, it was. I was blown away. I told my wife, I was like, that was like one of the coolest things. And I told you several times I've got to get to one of the meetings, and I finally said, screw it, I'm going. And I was sometimes you go to an event and you're like, I could have done without that. That's one I couldn't have done without. You know what else blew me away is I said something to where I said, I've got this podcast, and I'm going to lay some business cards out on a table, and and I'm walking away. People are like, can I have your business card? Can I have your card? Can I have your card? I was just started handing them out willy-nilly, and I'm like, holy crap, not expecting that at all. Yeah, they just made me feel really at home. It was outstanding. I've got to get up. I'm definitely going to make more of those. I will definitely take time out of my weekend to make his meetings. I don't have to be, I don't have to speak.
Now we're going to miss the next one, right? Because that's the Eureka meeting. And John, I'm officially asking if you wouldn't mind, if you make my meeting in Clever, Missouri, would you mind being the MC for the meeting as well?
No, absolutely not. Now, the only thing I'm going to tell you is, because I'm not that creative, so I will just warn you that the speech that I'm going to write up for Gary's event, I'm probably going to use at yours, so you'll hear it twice if you go to Gary's event. But it's something that's been on my mind, and it's something that I've been kind of jotting down in my head, and now I've got to type it into words. But yeah, no, that's fine. I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be honored. I'm honored that people actually want me to come speak at their events. So yeah, that's cool. I can do that for you. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much. John says, Patrick, Maya and I would never have known about your organization if it wasn't for Travis's meeting. Yes, Travis has provided a lot of opportunities for our organization to grow. And I am eternally grateful to Travis for that. Travis doesn't see it that way. It's, hey, you come to the meetings, you participate, you're helping people, and, it's your place too. And my thought process is, oh my God, Travis, thank you so much for everything you've done for me. And Travis is actually a pretty close friend. I like Travis a lot. We don't talk very much on the phone, but we text back and forth quite a bit. But on the 29th is his next meeting. And if those of you who don't go to the legislative meet and greet in Eureka, Missouri, you may want to consider going to Travis's, the Prepared Homestead meeting, because his special guest is Bill Eigel. I know that sucks. The guy who's carrying the silver and gold bill will be at Travis's meeting while many of us will be in Eureka, but that's the way it worked out. But Bill can handle himself, so he'll be fine without us. But yep, that meet and greet technically is more important for me personally, because like I said, Bill will cover the silver and gold really well with the Travis crowd up there.
Oh man!
And by the way, I'm not sure Travis even announced that yet, so
okay.
Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but I do believe that's who his guest is on the 29th.
Well, when Charles spoke about the UPMA, the people were dialed in. You can imagine what it's going to be like when Senator Eigel's up there talking. I mean, those people are going to be dialed in for that too. You could see when Charles talked about UPMA and you went into the gold and silver bill, man, nobody was talking. They were all listening very intently. And that's one thing about it is that, when people get up there and talk, and there was a decent crowd, and I know Travis said that's a small crowd. That was a decent crowd to me. Everybody's listening. Ain't nobody walking around talking, make a bunch of racket. Everybody's listening. They want to learn. They want the information. They're very receptive. And again, to top it all off, extremely kind people. It is it's a different world in that building. It really is. And it's super cool. Travis is telling me that these people get together, and if somebody needs help, they go help them. He's like, one guy needed a bunch of chickens slaughtered. He's like, a group of 4 or 5 of us went over there, and he said we had it knocked out in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's just what they do. And that's, when we talk about community, that's the kind of community we're talking about, not the communist type of community. That's the kind of community that we mean. Those are the types of communities you want to be involved in, because you help people out, and that when something happens with you, there's going to be people there to help you out. They're going to help you up. Yep. That's freaking awesome.
Yep. And actually, that was a smallish crowd for Travis's meetings, but it was the December meeting. So Travis's meetings are generally 250, 300 folks. So, and how many would you say were there? Maybe 110?
Somewhere, 100, 110, somewhere in there. And I was like, holy crap, I can't imagine what it's going to look like when, because he said in the wintertime it slows down, but spring through fall is packed house.
It's packed. Yep.
And I can't wait to see it.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I'm going to go there when it's nice and a nice spring or summer day, and just to see the crowd. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to just sit in there and just watch it go down. That's going to be awesome.
Sure. And between our networks, for instance, we help people, John, you and I help people get politically involved, and show them how easy it is to get good things done, that sort of thing. Travis does something different. He gets community involvement. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a perfect pairing. Basically, let's get control of our state and let's actually clean up our communities. Let's take care of one another. So I think, it was kind of meant to be, going to Travis's meeting. And that was because of a guy by the name of Tribulation Prepper who said, hey, you got to come to Travis's meeting and talk about the Second Amendment Preservation Act. That's how it started. And so I was like, okay, all right, sure. I'll come and speak about the second, and I did, and it was a big hit. And Travis says, come back often, please. And so, I think I've only missed 2 or 3 meetings.
Oh, wow.
Since my first meeting. So my wife and I generally go to every single meeting. We love it there. And here we have Maya and Doug with us tonight. And they're regulars at Travis's meeting as well. Just awesome people. But they're, and I'd like to say that they're, really special, and they are. But everyone there is just awesome. I mean, it's just a great place to go and the great people. Travis attracts really good people.
It was so funny because we were getting ready to leave because Sam was going to be interviewing Senator Eigel that night. We wanted to be home for that, and it was funny because Travis's wife comes up to me outside. It was right inside the door, and she's like, excuse me, who are you?" And I was like, oh.
Yep.
She goes, well, I was in the back in the kitchen working. And she goes, I saw you up front speaking. She said, but I couldn't hear you because I was in the kitchen. So she's like, I was just wondering who you were. And then we sat there and talked for like 20, 30 minutes. It's crazy.
Yep.
Just not used to that.
And that's how friendly they are. And she's like, hey, everyone else got to talk to you, you know, now it's my chance, kind of a thing. But that's the way it is there. But so the meet and greets, basically are, awesome. Travis's meetings are awesome. And those of you who have time and the ability to go somewhere on January 29th have a difficult decision to make. Bill Eigel will be at the Prepared Homestead meeting talking about his gold and silver bill, SB 100. But John and I, along with Gary Ride, will definitely be in Eureka doing the legislative meet and greet that day. And it just so happens both meetings are at 2:00. So, basically, for those of you who wanted a fun thing to do or a great thing to do on January 29th, you might have to draw straws or something here. It might be a tough pick for you, but I'm just very, very grateful once again that you guys came up with a model for this meet and greet, and it's being integrated very, very successfully into what we do, and it's creating really goodwill between the people and the representation, and it also helps to hold their feet to the fire when they have to meet their constituents. So it's just a brilliant model. I mean, folks, think that I think of everything. I can't think. In fact, I'm not a very good thinker, but I take ideas from where I find them. The best ideas win. And so that's why the bigger your network is, the better ideas you'll have through your network.
Absolutely. Well, we're at 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I'm going to work tomorrow.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it off for the night. But yeah, Patrick, if I don't, well, I'll talk to you after the show here if you're able to hang on the phone for a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. But for the rest of you folks, thanks for sticking around for the whole 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it's been a great show with Patrick as usual. Lots of information, lots of good discussion, lots of good conversation and chat in the live stream. Appreciate all of you. Patrick, the folks in the live stream, Sam and Trish, Bill Mundhausen at KUYK, and then I have to say thanks to my wife as well for sticking with me through this whole thing and supporting me and pushing me to do better and to keep this thing growing. I have to thank her as well. And just because somebody said, well, Patrick started it. Patrick started the whole thing. Patrick mentioned Mastodon. So you know what I'm going to do to end the show? I'm gonna play a Mastodon song real quick here. It's not a super long song, and it's gonna. So you'll probably hear it, Patrick. I'm just gonna pull it through the Bluetooth, and hopefully it doesn't mess up your phone. But yeah, let's play this Mastodon tune, and we'll close out the show. Again, it was great to see you all. Look forward to seeing some of you all on the 11th and at Jefferson City at the Capitol to push this gold and silver bill, and let's get Missouri some hedge against inflation. So with that, let's go with one of my personal favorites of Mastodon. Let's go with Show Yourself. So here it is. I'm going to have to turn this down so I don't blow everybody out. Here we go. Okay, we're not going to do that because that sounds like absolute dog doo-doo. So never mind to what I said, because holy crap, that sounded terrible. Sorry, folks, no Mastodon because, whew. Hold on, give me just a second here, folks. Never mind. I used to have a cable in the back that would, aux cable in the back of the board that I could run, but never mind. So anyway, see, it's just going downhill now. Me and Patrick got done talking, and everything's just going downhill. But anyway, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Next week, be sure, I've got a great guest on. Robert Brown is going to join me next week. So, just to give you a rundown for the rest of the month. Next week is Robert Brown. The following Friday is Tom Martz. And the last Friday of the month is newly elected state rep Darren Chappell. And Tom Martz thinks very highly of this guy because he is a strict constitutional conservative. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. But Robert Brown, I'm really excited to have him on because he is a constitutional scholar as well, the U.S. Constitution. But our topic of discussion is really going to be nullification. And I know that he's got all the quotes and all the letters and articles and everything with him that he's going to be able to lay out nullification in a constitutional manner and why it's so vitally important for the state. So look out for all of that. And again, we'll see you all next week right here on the Missouri Liberty Report. That is not it. I am just not doing it right.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
All right, and we're off the